Shalom, Israel. Most High in Christ bless. My name is Brother Zerubbabel,
My name is Ezra Zalazar.
and we are with Children of Israel. We are back once again. Blessed Sabbath to everyone. We're coming back to bring another lesson out for the body of Israel. This is another, one of those lessons that's dealing with helping to build our people up. We did the lesson last Sabbath. Man, it just escaped my. What do we do?
What did we do last?
Temptation. Yeah,
Temptation,
temptation.
yes.
Yeah, so we were dealing with temptation last week. So this week we're going to be going over a lesson dealing with pride. Um, we see a lot of pride within our people, and that's been one of the biggest problems with our people from day one. Um, from the time our people were brought out the womb, starting with our forefathers, pride has always plagued us as a nation. And we'll show some examples of that in the lesson. um, but pride is what has gotten us in the position that we're in now, as far as us having to go into captivity, having to serve our enemies, having the curses of Deuteronomy 28 and Leviticus 26, Deuteronomy 27. All these different curses come upon us because of pride. Um, and you see it all throughout the scriptures. So, we're going to, go through, we're going to, show some examples of our forefathers that had to deal with pride. Going to, bring out precepts, that have to deal with pride. Um, but what the goal of this lesson is to help our people to understand what exactly pride is, because pride sometimes could be a good thing in some instances, but overall, pride could be bad. And in the case of the Bible, pride is even considered evil in the eyes of the Most High. So, this is, again, another one of those milk lessons that our people need. Our people need to desire the sincere milk of the word. Because, again, as any free time that I've had during, the week, looking at different videos, again, constantly looking at videos, YouTube, trying to get edified from what other brothers online may be teaching. And a lot of the times, along with finding some things that can be edifying, you find a lot of stuff that make you scratch your head and be like, man, uh what is going on, what is happening? um a lot of weird foolishness going on in the midst of Israel. And you know well, we get into that another time, but just even though we see some weird stuff that go on within camps, um sometimes you also got to defend them. You find yourself that there are times when you gotta step up for the betterment of our nation. um to sometimes have to call out um some of our brothers that, oh man, how would I even put it? You know how you're telling me about the videos of one particular person, that we had made contact with at one point, but just kind of like shied away because um some of our brothers, and some of them are brothers that may have even left the same camps that we were in. um some may have left other camps, and sometimes our people can let pride get the best of them, and that pride can lead them down a road to where now you're listening to them and watching their videos, and I know some of our brothers are hurting.
Mhm.
They were involved in a camp.
Right.
They were close to people in the camp, or even some of the elders in the camps and things like that, and then when they either left or got kicked out, whatever the case is, they're still harboring a lot of that pride and anger and resentment, whether it's directed at the camp itself, the members of the camp, or certain members of the camp, or even the elders of the camp. um,
Right.
and you watch some of the their videos, and it comes to a point to where you got to say, bro, just let this go. Just drop your pride, just let it go, because you're going down a road to where you're almost starting to sound like you're going insane reading the scriptures. And like I said, I like the way one particular brother I was watching, um, he made a split from a particular clan, which I was really shocked to see, because of what he was like their number three guy, I guess you could call it, in in one of the camps. And he's got his own podcast now, and he said in his podcast that you know brothers going through and reading these scriptures, sometimes not even just brothers, just people in general going through these scriptures, this Bible, these scriptures can make you go insane. And I like the way he said it, because the way he put it in context and the way he contextualized it, it makes a lot of sense. And when you're starting to hear some of our brothers that are teaching, you starting to sound like you're going mentally off. And I'm saying that in loving kindness, because we love our people, we love all our brothers. We want to see all of our people learn who they are, and even if they already know, to better themselves. But you know I'm just I don't want to mention any specific names, but any of our people, if you left your camp, whatever the grievance is, um well, in some point, like I said, I gave a little brief back history about leaving the camp. I didn't name any particular camp that I left or anything like that, and that was purposely done, because I have no ill feelings, no ill will, like I pointed, especially towards the elders of the camp, because I never met them. I don't know them personally. The only things that I can comment on, as far as what I see, as far as teaching and doctrine a little bit, and doing what I can to put corrections out there. You know what I mean? If something needs to be corrected and is, uh, going off from the scriptures in a way. Um, but as far as, personally attacking, any of the elders of some of these camps maliciously, not going to do that, because it's nothing personal. These are our brothers. You know what I mean? Although we understand and we would like to see everybody come together, which we're supposed to do, we're supposed to be united as one, not broken up into all these camps. And that's what our prayer is that, as Christ prayed in John 17,
Right.
that we all become one, all on one accord, all speaking the same things, all believing the same thing. We know that, going to be a hard battle, but that's what needs to be done. So with that, there are a lot of different camps, a lot of different elders out there, and I've never met any of these elders personally. I don't know them personally. All I can go by is what you see on video and what they're teaching and the personality that they portray of themselves, the spirit that they portray when they're teaching. Um, but we need them. All of our people. You know what I mean. None of us are doing anything perfect. Some are a little bit more. Um, what's the word I'm looking for? They are more aggressive in their tone and in their mannerisms than others. That's the best way to put it. And you know, that's how they come across. That's the way they come off. But some of the videos that are being made in regards to talking about some of the elders in a lot of these different camps are getting to the point to where some of them, you as the individual putting the lesson out or putting the video out have to go and take a look in the mirror yourself, because some of the videos that some of the people that have left the camps are putting out are very wicked, evil, and malicious themselves. All right. And like I said, you know what I mean? It's sad to see somebody slipping down that slippery slope to where, like I said, they're starting to sound like going through the scriptures. You're kind of like going mentally insane in a way. And I pray, for this brother that he, could just let this stuff go, let go of the pride, let go of that anger, let go of that hatred, and move on. There was people even saying it in the comments that I was reading on some of these little short videos that he's been putting out. People are telling like, dude, you're sounding crazy. You know what I mean? And instead of taking heed to some of their warnings, he's putting out scriptures. And you've heard me say it before. When you start hearing somebody start to say things like, the Holy Spirit talks to me.
Right.
The Lord spoke to me and
Right.
told me to tell you.
Right.
Or the Lord spoke to me and told me to put this lesson out. Or I had a dream and the Lord revealed to me in my dream and started talking. You got to take a step back and say, whoa, wait a minute. Hold on. So are you telling me that the Lord,
Right.
you actually heard the Lord's voice?
Right.
He was talking to you? Or are you telling me that the Holy Ghost actually came and was speaking to you and you actually heard this? Because that's from what I'm hearing, this individual is saying. And, I pray for him. I pray for him. Like I said, we had made contact with him, just a couple of brief phone conversations with him and things like that. And just from what I heard talking to him, those couple of times on the phone, we came from the same camp. I had never personally met him while we were in the camp. I kind of had that feeling that he was already back then. How long ago was that we made contact with him? Was that like a year ago? 2 years ago.
Probably 2 years
Yeah,
ago.
yeah, it's been a couple of years, and you could already kind of get the sense that he was going down that slope, and so like, you know what, I'm gonna pull back. I don't think I want to associate with with what he's got going on. I don't want us being associated with some of the things that he's doing, and what I mean, saying about said camp that he left. You know what I mean? It's becoming too much. It's way too much, and it's been going on for far too long, and it's time to just let it go. All right. So let's grab Hebrews 5 and 12 through 14 as usual. We'll start there.
The book of Hebrews, chapter 5 and verse 12. For when for the time ye ought to be teachers, ye have need that one teach you again, which be the first principles of the oracles of God, and are become such as have need of milk and not of strong meat. For every one that useth milk is unskillful in the word of righteousness, for he is a babe.
And that's what I'm getting at with this particular individual, is that you're showing yourself to still be a babe in the scriptures based on a lot of the things that you're starting to say. You're being tossed to and fro by every wave of doctrine. That wind, those gust of winds are real strong upon this particular individual. And all I'm saying is I pray that he can get his sails, set straight before he falls too far off the deep end or go too far off into the deep end. Because from what I'm hearing in these short videos that he's putting out, that's that's where I see it's going. Um, so if it's a situation where you want to relearn, then you need to be retaught. You've got to be retaught. Desire the sincere milk of the word, because like I said, the one brother that put it so eloquently is that reading these scriptures can drive you insane. And literally, I am really, I'm seeing it with this individual, that it seems like um, this person sitting, alone, reading the scriptures and studying alone is causing him and driving him, mentally unstable in a way. Um, let's go to First Peter 2:2.
The book of First Peter, chapter 2 and verse 2. As newborn babes, desire the sincere milk of the word, that ye may grow thereby.
So, as a newborn babe, desire the sincere milk of the word. All of this, the Lord spoke to me, the Holy Ghost spoke to me, is what, was one particular clip that he did that said, the Holy Spirit talks to me, it can talk to you too.
Right.
And it was just kind of like, man, you really sound like you're going off the deep end. I pray that you know what I mean, seek some outside help or something. Seriously. At this point, some kind of therapy, just to get over, the hurt, the anger, the pride, the frustration, all of that. That they may, and not just him. There's a lot of people that have left camps that are dealing with these things. They're dealing with these issues, and they're trying to deal with them alone. They may need to go seek some professional help to get over it. Just like any person that were involved, in any kind of relationship that has dissolved. And now, they're trying to cope and they don't know how to do it by themselves. Go seek professional help if you got to. Um, some people are strong minded that they don't need that. You know what I mean? They know how to cope. Some people don't have that same strong will that they may need some outside influencers, outside intervention to help them. I just pray that they can do it. All right. But from what I'm seeing, it's a lot of pride that's driving, um, some of the people to go as far as they're going. You know what I mean? It comes to a point to where it's got to stop. Um, go back to the basics. Go back to the beginning, and be retaught. That's all I can say about it. All right. So we're gonna get into this lesson dealing with pride. The title of the lesson is "The Beginning of Pride is When One Departed from God." And I've just realized that in the title I put "The Beginning of Pride is When Departed from God." So let me
Right.
see if I can fix it. I didn't even notice that. When one departed from God. Did it change?
Oh, I don't see it.
Oh, okay. So the beginning of pride is when one departed from God, and we're going to go straight to is go to the book of Sirach, chapter 10 and verse 12.
The book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 10 and verse 12 says, "The beginning of pride is when one departed from God and his heart is turned away from his master."
From his maker. So this is heavy. The beginning of pride is when one departed from God. When you've turned away from God, you've turned away from his law, statutes, and commandments and judgments, pride comes in. That's where it starts. You're no longer looked at in the eyes of the Most High as being someone that's righteous. You're no longer someone that he views as someone that's just, someone that's keeping his laws and commandments. You've turned your heart, you've turned your mind away from him. And now that you've done that, that's you allowing pride to creep into you. Go ahead and read.
Verse 13, "For pride is the beginning of sin."
Whoa, read that again.
For pride is the beginning of sin.
For pride is the beginning of sin. For pride is the beginning of sin. Go ahead.
And he that had it shall pour out abomination.
And he that hath it shall pour out abomination. And that's what you see happening with a lot of our people in Israel. They're letting pride get the best of them. And with that pride, they don't realize is them slipping into sin. And that sin is being manifested openly to those that have spiritual eyes to see and spiritual ears to hear, that they are pouring out abominations in their speech, in their video clips that they may be putting out, in their lessons that they may be putting out. Go ahead and read.
And therefore the Lord brought up on them strange calamities and overthrew threw them utterly.
And so that's what happened with our people as a whole, because we allow pride to enter into our nation. We allow sin to enter into our nation, and we poured out abominations in the eyes of the Most High. We spit in his face. Us as individuals also do the same thing. So he brought upon Israel strange calamities and he overthrew us. And he will do the same thing to us individually. He does the same thing to nations outside of Israel. Go back and look at all of the different nations that have ruled this earth. What happens? They allow pride to come in. And next thing you know, the Most High brought strange calamities upon them and overthrew them and set up another nation in their stead. You saw it happen over and over and over again. It's going to happen again here in these last days in Babylon the Great. The only reason why we're not in rulership today is because we allow pride to sink in or to seep in. And we had to be brought down. This is our punishment. This is our get right time. And unfortunately, a lot of our people are not understanding that because they're still allowing pride to move them. All right. Let's go to Proverbs 8 and 13.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 8 and verse 13. The fear of the Lord is to hate evil, pride and arrogancy, and the evil way, and the forward mouth do I hate.
So it says the fear of the Lord is to hate evil. The fear of the Lord is to hate evil. And what is that evil? Pride is evil, and arrogancy is evil. And the evil way. And the forward mouth do I hate. So pride and arrogancy is the evil way. Having a forward mouth is the evil way. And the Most High hates it. If you fear the Most High, you will not allow pride and arrogancy to creep into you. And I know that firsthand because I could tell when I was younger, especially back in the strength of my days, and I was very prideful. I was an arrogant little punk. I'll be straight up with it. I was very prideful. I was very arrogant because in my mind I just knew I had it going on. You know what I mean? That's how it was. Like I said, back in my younger days. I thank the Most High that I grew up and was able to take a look in the mirror and be like, wait a minute, what's wrong with you? But the fear of the Lord is to hate evil. And I can look back and I know that, back in, my younger years, I didn't have any fear of the Most High. Had none. We've all been there, especially before we came into the truth. So we have to teach our people what it means to fear the Most High. We have a whole lesson on it, the fear of the Lord. An entire lesson that deals with what it means to fear the Most High. You're being taught the fear of the Lord all throughout the scriptures. It's right there in front of your face. And a lot of times it gets ignored. But if you actually fear the Lord, you are going to hate evil. All right. Let's go to Proverbs 29:23.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 29 and verse 23. A man's pride shall bring him low, but honor shall uphold the humble in spirit.
So he says, a man's pride shall bring him low. That's exactly what's going to happen. At some point in your life, your pride is going to bring you to a low point. And when you hit that low point, that's where you've got to take a step back and examine yourself. The scriptures say, examine yourself, whether you be in the faith. You have to take that self-examination and come to terms and understand, like, oh, you know what? I'm in this situation. Yeah, my pride got the best of me again. Yeah, it was my pride. That's what did it. and be honest with yourself and give yourself an honest evaluation. But again, a man's pride shall bring him low, but honor shall uphold the humble in spirit. The Most High is looking for those that are going to humble themselves. We have to come with humbleness and humility to the Most High. We've got to humble ourselves down as a little child. Grab, is that Matthew 18, where he brought the little child in the midst of them?
The book of Matthew, chapter 18 and
Yeah,
verse
verse 1.
3. Was it verse 1?
Start at verse 1, yeah, and read through verse 6.
All right. The book of Matthew, chapter 18 and verse 1. At the same time came the disciples unto Jesus, saying, Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? And Jesus called a little child unto him, and set him in the midst of them, and said, Verily I say unto you, except ye be converted and become as a little children, you shall not enter into the kingdom of heaven. Whosoever therefore shall humble himself as this little child, the same is great in the kingdom of heaven. And whoso shall receive one such little child in my name receiveth me. But whoso shall offend one of these little ones which believe in me, it were better for him that a millstone were hanged about his neck, and that he were drowned in the depths of the sea.
So, as he said in verse 4, whosoever therefore shall humble himself as this little child, the same is greatest in the kingdom of heaven. And that's one of the problems with our people, as you see the disciples were doing. Oh, who's going to be the greatest? Is it going to be me? Am I going to be the greatest? Or is it going to be him? All our people always want to be the first. They always want to be on top. They always want to be the best. You see it all throughout, who's the GOAT? Who's the best basketball player? Is it Jordan or LeBron? Who's the best football player? Is it Emmett or Barry? Or you know what I mean? Who's the best R&B singer or dancer? Is it Usher, Chris Brown, Michael Jackson? Who is it? Who's the queen of R&B? Is it Beyonce? Is it Janet? Is it our people minds are so caught up on works of the flesh that we don't know how to be humble in spirit. And that's due to pride. The only way we're going to get into the kingdom is you have to humble yourself as a little child. As he says in verse 3, and said, Verily I say unto you, except ye be converted and become as little children, ye shall not enter into the kingdom of heaven. We have got to learn how to humble ourselves. We've got to learn how to let pride go. Because again, Proverbs 29:23, a man's pride shall bring him low, but honor shall uphold the humble in spirit. All right. So you got to learn how to control your mind. You've got to learn how to let go of evil thoughts. What are those evil thoughts? Because these evil thoughts are going to bring you to a low estate. Let's go to Mark 7:21-23. Well, what are some of these things?
The book of Mark, chapter 7 and verse 21. For from within, out of the heart of men, proceed evil thoughts, adulteries, fornications, murders, theft, covetousness, wickedness, deceit, lasciviousness, an evil eye, blasphemy, pride, foolishness. All these evil things come from within and defile the man.
So that lets you see that in the eyes of the Most High, pride is evil. It says all these evil things come from within and defile the man. Pride starts in the heart of man, meaning your mind. These evil thoughts, such as pride, is what defiles you. And we have, even in the truth, a lot of our people that are defiled, and they don't realize it. They have no idea. They have no clue that they're actually, still unclean. They don't realize it, and it's due to pride. All right. Let's grab Sirach 10 and 7.
The book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 10 and verse 7. Pride is hateful before God and man, and by both doth one commit iniquity.
So it says, pride is hateful before God and man, because not only does God hate a prideful person, but even men, people. Most, you talk to most people, and they, even though most people are prideful themselves, they still will hate coming in contact with somebody that's full of pride. They will avoid that person. They will not want to have anything to do with them in a lot of cases. All right. So it says, pride is hateful before God and man, and by both doeth one commit iniquity. Just as we read earlier, pride is what? When one has departed from his maker. For pride is the beginning of sin. So when you have pride, you're committing iniquity not only against your fellow man, but you're also committing iniquity against God. It becomes a twofold thing. You get in an argument with, a friend, spouse, some, whatever the case is, one of your brothers in the truth, and you let that pride creep in. Not only are you going to end up committing iniquity against that person, but you're going to be committing iniquity against the Most High also, because you're going to fall into sin. Pride is hateful before God and man, and by both doeth one commit iniquity. So, what exactly is pride? We've been hearing about, so far about pride. Pride is the beginning of sin. Pride is evil. It's an evil way. Pride shall bring a man to a low estate. Pride is hateful to God. But what exactly is it? Let me share my screen. We're going to get the definition. Share screen. Window. Let me know when you can see. Pride, a, a feeling of deep pleasure or satisfaction derived from one's own achievements, the achievements of those with whom one is closely associated, or from qualities or possessions that are widely admired. Definition 2: consciousness of one's own dignity. Consciousness of one's own dignity. 3, confidence and self respect as expressed by members of a group, typically one that has been socially marginalized on the basis of their shared identity, culture, and experience. So, we as a people, it's not particularly bad for us to show pride that, we are of this group. We're the Israelites. We have a shared identity, we have a shared culture, and we have a shared experience. But of course, Esau always has to make everything evil. Talk about the bridge was lit up in rainbow colors, symbolic of LGBT pride. And then in the midst of a celebration of Latino pride, the
Mhm.
underlying theme of the song is Black pride. So why are they going to mix us in with LGBT in the definition? These our people don't pay attention to stuff like this. So LGBT pride is synonymous with Latino pride or Black pride. Why couldn't they have used a celebration of European pride next to the LGBT? You understand what I'm saying? It's crazy, man. Our people don't open their eyes to see this stuff.
Right.
Uh, Being used as a verb. Be especially proud of. All right, a particular quality or skill. So with pride, definition one is the main one with our people. A feeling of deep pleasure or satisfaction derived from one's own achievements, the achievements of those with whom one is closely associated, or from qualities or possessions that are widely admired. All right. Um, and number two, consciousness of one's dignity. Let's look at some of these synonyms, some of these similar words like pleasure, joy, delight, gratification, fulfillment, satisfaction. All right. What are some of those? Self esteem, dignity, honor, self respect, ego, self worth. Let me click on and see what else they got. All right. And this we got comfort, contentment, self worth, self image, self identity, self regard. And what did I say? Amour propre, propre, propre. Am I reading that right? Yeah, I don't have my glasses on right now. Um,
Oh, the letters are too small for me.
yeah. So, but this is pride, the definition itself. So, the Most High says being this kind of a person, being a prideful person, is hateful to him. Being this kind of person is going to bring you to a low estate. Because look at this, look at definition one. You're a person that you feel a lot of deep pleasure and satisfaction in your own achievements. And that's where that slippery slope comes with the breaking of commandment one. People putting their schooling, you know what I mean, before God. That's what America teaches us. Getting that high school diploma is more important than serving God. Getting that college diploma is more important than serving God. Getting um, medals and trophies in sports are more important than God. Getting that, that well-paying, high honorable job is more important than serving God. Everything in America is built upon achievements. From the time people graduate high school, there's a competition through even the years of being away from high school. Again, okay, who has achieved the most since they graduated high school? Who's um and those people are even remembered. You know what I mean? They have high school reunions, college reunions, where the people that have graduated come back, and you know what I mean. And basically, all it is just a competition of who has accomplished the most in their life since graduating high school. That's pride. Everything in Babylon the Great is predicated upon pride. And you've heard us say it before, and it starts the very moment you get into Esau's school system. You start learning to be prideful. You start learning to be idolatrous. You start learning how to break God's commandments from the moment you enter school. That's why it's foolish for our people to just stick their kids into America's school system and allow America to raise the Israelite children. And that's what we've been doing for hundreds of years. Just blindly throwing the kids into the midst of this school system and not taking the time to step back and understand that you're not raising your kids. America's school system is raising your kids. And what are they learning at school? Besides math, besides reading and writing in English, besides a warped history, besides warped science, they're learning a whole lot more about everything else than they actually are about those subjects that they're supposed to be studying in school. And all of these things are pushed in the midst of American society. All right. So, one of the definitions that we read said that pride is consciousness of one's own dignity. We're going to find out what does the Bible say about dignity? Because that's another one of those words that a lot of our people use a lot, but sometimes don't really understand that pride and dignity can be evil in the eyes of the Most High. Let's go to Ecclesiastes 10 and 6 real quick.
The book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 10 and verse 6. Folly is set in great dignity, and the rich sit in low places.
So it says, folly is set in great dignity, and the rich sit in a low place. So dignity is synonymous with pride. Remember, we just read one of the definitions of pride is consciousness of one's dignity. And the Most High is saying that folly is set in great dignity, and the rich sit in low place. Because you may hear people say, oh man, that's not dignified. Oh man, you've got no dignity. You may have heard that before. You may hear it sometime. You may have, you know what I mean? But we want to be aware of that. We want to be conscious of that. That pride and dignity can put you at odds with the Most High if you're not careful. And we're going to see that. We're going to go through some history. We're going to show just a couple of our forefathers that allow pride, they allow dignity to get the best of them. And in some cases, it ended up getting them in trouble. And in some cases, it caused the entire nation to fall into trouble because of the pride of some of our people. So we're going to go first with King David. Let's go to the book of 1 Samuel. Going to read chapter 17. So read a little bit about um, King David and see what it is that he did. All right, and how he, showed pride.
The book of First Samuel, chapter 17 and verse 1. Now the Philistines gathered together their armies to battle, and were gathered together at Shokan, which belongeth to Judah, and pitched between Shogun and Azekah in a Ephesdammim. And Saul and the men of Israel were gathered together and pitched by the valley of Elah, and set battle in array against the Philistines. And the Philistines stood on a mountain on the one side, and the Israel stood on a mountain on the other side, and there was a valley between them. And there went out a champion out of the camp of the Philistines, named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits in a span. And he had an helmet of brass upon his head, and he was armed with a coat of mail, and weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels of brass. And he had graves of brass upon his legs, and a target of brass between his shoulders. And the staff of his spear was like a waver's beam, and his spear's head weighed 600 shekels of iron, and bearing a shield went before him. And he stood and cried unto the armies of Israel, and said unto them, Why are ye come out to set your battles in array? Am not I a Philistine, and ye servants to Saul? Choose you a man for you, and let him come down to me, and he be able to fight with me and to kill me. Then will we be your servants. But if I prevail against him and kill him, then shall ye be our servants and serve us. And the Philistines said, I defy the armies of Israel this day. Give me a man that we may fight together. When Saul and all Israel heard those words of the Philistines, they were dismayed and greatly afraid. Now David was the son that Ephraimite, of Bethlehem, Judah, whose name was Jesse, and he had 8 sons. And the man went among men for an old man in the days of Saul. And 3 eldest sons of Jesse went and follow Saul to the battle. And the name of his 3 sons that went to the battle were Eliab the firstborn, and the next unto him Abia, Abin, Abinia,
Abinadab.
Abinadab, and the third Shaman Mach. And David was the youngest, and the 3 eldest followed Saul. But David went and returned from Saul to feed his father's sheep at Bethlehem. And the Philistines drew near morning and evening, and presented himself 40 days. And Jesus said unto David his son, Take now for thy brethren an ephah of this parched corn, and these 10 loaves, and run to the camp to the brethren, and carry these 10 cheese unto the
Yes.
cheeses unto the captain of their thousands, and look how thy brethren fare, and take their pledge. Now Saul and they and all the men of Israel were in the valley of Elah, fighting with the Philistines. And David rose up early in the morning, and left the sheep with a keeper, and took and went, as Jesse had commanded him. And he came to the trench as the host was going forth of the fight, and shouted for the battle. For Israel and the Philistines had put the battle in array, army against army. And David left his carriage in the hand of the keeper of the carriage, and ran into the army, and came and saluted his brethren. And as he talked with them, behold, there came up the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name out of the armies of the Philistines, and spake according to the same words, and David heard them. And all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him and were sore afraid. And the men of Israel said, Have ye seen this man that is come up? Surely to defy Israel is he come up. And it shall be that the man who killed him, the king will enrich him with the great riches and will give him his daughter and make his father's house free in Israel. And David spake to the men that stood by him, saying, What shall be done to the man that killed the Philistine, and taketh away the reproach from Israel? For who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God?
So listen how bold David spoke. Like, who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God? Who is he? You know, he's like, I don't care how big you are. I don't care how tough you're talking. I don't care who you are. You know, you don't step to my people like this. You know, he was bold. Go ahead.
And the people answer him after this manner, saying, So shall it be done to the man that killed him. And Eliab, his eldest brother, heard when he spake unto the men. And Eliab's anger was kindled against David. And he said, Why comest thou down hither? And with whom hast thou left those few sheep in the wilderness? I know thy pride and the naughtiness of thine heart, for thou art come down that thou mightest see the battle.
So his brother, he knows him. He's the older brother of David. He knows how he is. Like, man, I know your pride. I know the naughtiness of your heart. He's like, I know how you are, man. You didn't come down here, you just came to come watch. You just wanted to be nosy. You just wanted to come get in the midst of stuff. Go ahead.
Verse 29. And David said, What have I now done? Is there not a cause? And he turned from him towards another and spake after the same manner. And the people answered him again after the former manner. And when the words were heard which David spake, they rehearsed them before Saul. And
Wait,
he said,
read that again, because that goes back again to that rehearsing the righteous acts.
right,
Because
verse
I'm
35.
still hearing people misusing that precept that we gotta rehearse the righteous acts of the Lord. Because a lot of camps just finished having their feast of unleavened bread, their Passovers and everything, and you see it all the time. There's questions in the chats, well, why is your camp having yours at this time? Or why is this camp having theirs at that time? Well, why are you doing yours this way and this camp is doing theirs that way? And you hear the same, and we're just practicing, we're not practicing, we're just rehearsing the righteous acts. When again,
Right,
see, this is one of those things where I say, we're going to bring the correction if it needs to be brought.
right,
It's not talking about that. It's talking about it. It's speaking, rehearsing the righteous acts of the Lord that he did for us, repeating them, saying them, talking about them to the next generations, just like they're doing here. They rehearsed them before Saul. Put it in context. And when the words were heard, which David spake, they rehearsed them before Saul. So they heard what David said, and they went to Saul and repeated what David said. They repeated it to Saul. Go ahead and read.
um, verse 31. And when the words were heard which David spake, they rehearsed them before Saul, and he sent for him. And David said to Saul, Let no man's heart fail because of him. Thy servant will go and fight with this Philistine. And Saul said to David, Thou art not able to go against this Philistine to fight with him, for thou art but a youth, and he a man of war from his youth. And David said unto Saul, Thy servant kept his father's sheep, And there came a lion and a bear and took a lamb, a lamb out of the flock. And I went after him and smote him and delivered it out of his mouth. And when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard and smote him and slew him.
So when you hear the things that are coming out of King David's mouth, you can see that he was very aware of his accomplishments and his achievements. And he wasn't shy about letting them be known. He wasn't shy. He wasn't afraid to show his ego. As his brother said, I know thy pride. I know how you are, David. Go ahead and read on.
Thy servant slew both the lion and the bear, and this uncircumcised Philistine shall be as one of them, seeing he had defied the armies of the living God. David said, moreover, the Lord that delivered me out of the paw of the lion and out of the paw of the bear, he will deliver me out of the hand of this Philistine. And Saul said unto David, go, and the Lord be with thee. And Saul armed David with his armor, and he put an helmet of brass upon his head. Also he armed him with a coat of mail. And David girded his sword upon his armor, and he uh, essayed to go, for he had not proved it. And David said unto Saul, I cannot go with these, for I have not proved them. And David put them off him. And he took his staff in his hand and chose him 5 smooth stones out of the brook and put them in a shepherd's bag, which he had, even in a scrip. And his slip was in his hand, and he drew near to the Philistine.
So it's actually his sling. So he had a slingshot. All right. Go ahead.
Verse 41. And the Philistine came on and drew near unto David, and the man that bare the shield went before him. And when the Philistine looked about and saw David, he dismayed him, for he was but a youth and ruddy, and of a fair countenance.
So it says he disdained him, for he was but a youth and ruddy and of a fair countenance. Go ahead.
And the Philistine said unto David, I, a dog,
He said,
am
am
I
I?
a dog? Yeah, yeah. And the Philistine said unto David, am I a dog, that thou comest to me with staves? And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. And the Philistine said to David, come to me, and I will give thy flesh unto the fowls of the air and to the beasts of the field. Then said David to the Philistine, thou comest to me with a sword and with a spear and with a shield, but I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, who thou hast defied. This day will the Lord deliver thee into my hand, and I will smite thee, and take thine head from thee, and I will give the carcasses of the host of the Philistines this day unto the fowls of the air, and to the wild beasts of the earth, that all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. And all this assembly shall know that the Lord saveth not with sword and spear, for the battle is the Lord's, and he will give you into our hands. And it came to pass, when the Philistine arose and came and drew nigh to meet David, that David hasted and ran towards the army to meet the Philistine. And David put his hand in his bag and took thence a stone and slaying it, and smote the Philistine in his forehead, that the stone sunk into his forehead, and he fell upon his face to the earth. So David prevailed over the Philistine with a sling and with a stone, and smote the Philistine, and slew him. But there was no sword in the hand of David. Therefore David ran and stood upon the Philistine, and took his sword and drew it out of the sheath thereof, and slew him, and cut off uh, his head through it. And when the
There,
Philistine, say that again,
therewith.
therewith, and when the Philistines saw their champion was dead, they fled. And the men of Israel and of Judah arose and sought and pursued the Philistines until thou comest to the valley and to the gates of Ekron. And the wounded of the Philistines fell down by the way to Sharaim, even unto Gath and unto Ekron. And the children of Israel returned from chasing after the Philistines, and they spoiled their tents. And David took the head of the Philistine and brought it to Jerusalem, but he put his armor in his tent. And when Saul saw David go forth against the Philistines, he said unto Abner, the captain of the host, Abner, whose son is this youth? And Abner said, As thy soul liveth, O king, I cannot tell. And the king said, Inquire thou whose son the sterling is. And as David returned from the slaughter of the Philistine, Abner took him and brought him before Saul with the head of the Philistine in his hand. And Saul said to him, Whose son art thou, thou young man? And David answered, I am the son of the servant Jesse the Bethlehemite.
All right, so you can see King David. He did a righteous thing in the eyes of the Most High by fighting the battle, winning the battle against Goliath. But it was done out of pride, though, because he had pride for his nation, which can be a good thing. You know what I mean? But he also had a lot of self pride, which at that particular time it was used in a good way. But his pride sometimes got him into trouble and got him made him fall into sin, made him fall into doing things that were not so righteous in the eyes of the Most High. All right. So we got to keep that in mind when it comes to dealing with pride, when it comes to dealing with the scriptures. We always want to go back and study our forefathers. When it comes to pride, how did our forefathers react to it? Or how did they have pride or a lot of pride? And if they did, how did it affect their lives? How did it affect them? All right. So we're going to go to another one and show about King Hezekiah. All right. King Hezekiah had pride also. The kind of pride that he was dealing with is the kind of pride that a lot of our people deal with today that still gets Israel into trouble. Our people went into captivity to Babylon based on the foolishness of the pride of Hezekiah. We're going to go to 2 Kings chapter 20.
Um, all of chapter 20,
No, he's going to read verse 12 through 18.
12 through 18. The book of 2 Kings, chapter 20, and verse 12. At that time, Berodach Baladan, the son of Baladan, king of Babylon, sent letters and a present unto Hezekiah, for he had heard that Hezekiah had been sick. And Hezekiah hearkened unto them, and showed them all the house of his precious things, the silver and the gold, and the spices, and the precious ointment, the and all the house of his armor, and all that was found in his treasure. There was nothing in his house, nor in all his dominion, that Hezekiah showed them not. Then came Isaiah the prophet unto King Hezekiah, and said unto him, What said these men? And for whence came they unto thee? And Hezekiah said, they are come from a far country, even from Babylon. And he said, what have they seen in that house? And Hezekiah answered, all the things that are in my house have they seen. There is nothing among my treasures that I have not showed them.
And
And
that's
I said,
very typical of especially Judah, especially Judah, that they want to show off everything they got.
mhm,
Always, our people still have that pride about them. Check out my gold watch, my diamonds, my
right,
Rolex. Look at my gold, my chain. Got my, you know what I mean. Got on my Louis Vuitton. Our people still haven't learned.
right.
Still not have learned not to
They,
show people everything you got.
right.
And that's exactly what Hezekiah did here. He showed them everything. He's like, I showed them everything. There's nothing in my house I didn't show them. He was being a braggart, bragging. But what happened? Let's read on.
They didn't they made what was that show, like Crib or something,
Oh yeah. MTV Cribs, yep. Where they
showing
would go and show,
everything.
yeah, show off the house, yep. Yo, MTV Cribs, and look at my closet with my 100 pairs of Jordans, and look at my 5 cars. I got my Ferrari over here. I got my Lambo right here. I'm telling our people, but that's what America breeds, though.
Right.
America breeds this stuff.
And then they spend it off to the richest pastors. I don't know if you
Exactly.
saw something like that.
Um, that was called. That was at the show, Pastors of LA or something like that.
Something like that, where
Yeah,
they were showing off their planes and everything
exactly.
they own.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're absolutely right that some of these pastors are doing the same thing. That prosperity doctrine.
right.
Go ahead though.
The verse 16. And Isaiah said unto Hezekiah, hear the words of the Lord. Behold, the days come that all that is in thine house, and that which thy fathers have laid upon in stone unto this day, shall be carried into Babylon. Nothing shall be left, saith the Lord. And of thy sons that shall issue from thee, which thou shalt beget, shall they take away, and there shall be eunuchs in the place of the kings of Babylon.
In
Then
the
said
palace
Hezekiah,
of the king, just up to verse 18. All right. So he says, and thy sons that shall issue from thee, which thou shalt beget, shall they take away, and they shall be eunuchs in the palace of the king of Babylon. So remember, when we read Proverbs 29 and 23, it read, a man's pride shall bring him low. A man's pride shall bring him low. And that's exactly what Isaiah is telling Hezekiah, that man, because you did this, you're going to cause your entire nation to fall to a low estate. All because you were an idiot. All because you were a fool. It's crazy. A man's pride, especially a leader of Israel, can cause the entire nation to fall or come to a low estate. And that's exactly what Hezekiah did. Hezekiah's actions caused the entire nation of Judah, the entire southern kingdom, to go into captivity. It's crazy. But our people, like I said, our people don't learn their lesson because our people are still doing these things today. Let's go to Second Chronicles 32. Second Chronicles chapter 32. You're going to read just verses 24 through 33.
the book of Second Chronicles, chapter 32 and verse 24. In those days, Hezekiah was sick to the to I can't read. In those days, Hezekiah was sick to the death, and prayed unto the Lord. And he spake unto him, and he gave him a sign. But Hezekiah rendered not again according to the benefit done unto him, for his heart was lifted up.
For his
Therefore,
heart was what?
for his heart was lifted up.
Lifted up, meaning your heart being lifted up means it becomes prideful. Hezekiah was sick. He was about to die. He prayed to the Most High and spoke to him. And, basically, he was asking for help. Heal me. I'm hurting. I'm sick. Take this pain away. And the Most High heard him and did what he asked. But what did Hezekiah do? Hezekiah, it says, but Hezekiah rendered not again according to the benefit done unto him. What benefit that was done unto him? The Most High healed him. And it wasn't enough. He let his pride get the best of him. Go ahead.
Therefore, there was wrath upon him and upon Judah and Jerusalem. And notwithstanding, Hezekiah humbled himself for the pride of his heart, both he and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, so that the wrath of the Lord came not upon them in the days of Hezekiah.
So now he opened his eyes and realized his folly. He was like, oh, wait a minute, hold on. So he repented of that pride and he humbled himself. He says, notwithstanding, Hezekiah humbled himself for the pride of his heart, both he and the inhabitants of Jerusalem. They learned their lesson. They turned the wrath of the Most High away. Go ahead and read.
And Hezekiah had exceeding much riches and honor, and he made himself treasurers for silver and for gold and for precious stones and for spices and for shields and for all manner of pleasant jewels. Storehouse houses also for the increase of corn and wine and oil, and stalls for all manner of beasts and coats and for flocks. Moreover, provided him cities and possessions of flocks and herds in an abundance, for God had given him substance very much. This same Hezekiah also stooped the upper water course of Gihon and brought it straight down to the west side of the city of David, and Hezekiah prospered in all his works. Howbeit, in the business of the ambassador of the prince of Babylon, who sent unto him the inquiry of the wonder that was done in the land, God left him to try him, that he might know all that was in his heart. Now the rest of the acts of Hezekiah and his goodness behold, they are written in the vision of Isaiah the prophet, the son of Amos, and in the book of the king of Judah and Israel. And Hezekiah slept with his father, and they burned him. They burned him in
So
the. I mean, yeah, they buried. Thank you. And they buried him in the chiefest of the sepulchres of the sons of David. And all Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem did him honor at his death. And Manasseh his son reigned in his stead.
So basically, what it came down to is that Hezekiah showed all his substance to the men of Babylon and caused his entire nation to go into captivity. So we're also reading that he also allowed his pride to deny the Most High, breaking what? Commandment 3. After all the good things the Most High did for him, he let his pride get the best of him. So we got to remember it was Hezekiah's pride that made him act as foolishly as he did. All right. So we also are seeing in Chronicles that the Most High, when it came to dealing with these ambassadors that came from Babylon, they were sent so the Most High can test him to see what he was going to do. He wanted to know, did he really repent from the pride that he has, or does he still have that pride in his heart? And guess what? He still had that pride because he showed them everything, all his substance. And the Most High said, okay, you failed the test. Since you failed the test, your whole nation is going into captivity. All right. So that's just, a few. Let's get one more. Let's go to the book of Esther. Let's read about Mordecai. Go to Esther chapter 4. He's going to read verse 17.
The book of Esther, chapter 4 and verse 17. So Mordecai went his way and did according to all that Esther had commanded him.
So Mordecai went his way and did all that Esther had commanded him. So remember, if you read the story, that Mordecai was like I can't remember, was he the uncle of Esther? I believe he was her uncle that had adopted her in a way after her family. I guess her family had died, and Mordecai had this battle going with Haman. You have to go and read the entire story. All right. Just for sake of time, we're not going to do it. So let's go to, you're going to continue reading because the story continues in chapter 13 in verse 8.
Oh, 13. Okay.
Yeah, so 13 and 8 through 14, I believe. You know what? I got it already. I'll go ahead and read it because I
Okay.
know in the Apocrypha, going from the Bible, the regular, the Bible to the Apocrypha. Sometimes I know you got a Bible with the Apocrypha already in it, though.
Right.
It gets confusing because you go from Esther 4 and then Esther 13 in the Apocrypha is kind of like the extension of it. So Esther 4 and 17 says, so Mordecai went his way and did according to all that Esther had commanded him. So this would be going into what would be chapter 13. It says, then Mordecai thought upon all the works of the Lord and made his prayer unto him, saying, O Lord, Lord, the King Almighty, for the whole world is in thy power. And if thou hast appointed to save Israel, there is no man that can gainsay thee. For thou hast made heaven and earth, and all the wondrous things under the heaven. Thou art Lord of all things, and there is no man that can resist thee, which art the Lord. Thou knowest all things, and thou knowest, Lord, that it was neither in contempt nor pride, nor for any desire of glory that I did not bow down to proud Amen. For I could have been content with goodwill for the salvation of Israel to kiss the soles of his feet. But I did this that I might not prefer the glory of man above the glory of God. Neither will I worship any but thee, O God, neither will I do it in pride. And now, O Lord, God and King, spare thy people, for their eyes are upon us to bring us to naught. Yea, they desire to destroy the inheritance that had been thine from the beginning. So remember what happened is that Haman had kind of put out this decree that, everybody would have to kneel before him. Mordecai refused to do it. All right. So in Haman's eyes, this was an act of pride. This was an act of rebellion. But Mordecai is praying to the Most High and saying, you know what? I didn't do this out of pride. I didn't do this, you know what I mean, for no other reason than I'm not going to bow to to a man. I'm not going to give your glory to someone else. I'm not going to break commandment one by putting another God before you. I'm not going to do it. Going to verse 16, it says, despise not the portion which thou hast delivered out of Egypt for thine own self. Hear my prayer and be merciful unto thine inheritance. Turn our sorrow unto joy, that we may live, O Lord, and praise thy name, and destroy not the mouths of them that praise thee, O Lord. All Israel in like manner cried most earnestly unto the Lord, because their death was before their eyes. Remember, he put out the decree that all of Israel was supposed to, he wanted all the Israelites to get killed, to get destroyed. All because, and it was actually due to Haman's pride. You know what I mean? He was the one being prideful when you actually put it in context and look at the situation. All right. I'm going to skip down to verse 19. So, no, that's it. That's fine. Yeah, there is no 19. Yeah, the way they have it on here, it can get real confusing because they go from Esther 4 and 1 in the scriptures to chapter 13 because it's an extension of chapter 4, and they just put it all together. It's weird the way they have it on here, and chapter 14, they've got it all lumped together. So basically, what we're trying to show is that Mordecai not bowing to Haman was not done out of pride. He was showing that he had more respect, more love towards the Most High than he did, and more fear of the Most High than he did of Haman, and not bowing to this man um, to fulfill Haman's pride, because that's basically what it came down to. All right. Um, so we just wanted to show, what I mean, give a few examples of our forefathers that had to deal with pride. King David was very prideful. Our forefather King David, that was just part of his personality. That was part of who he was. That his heart was uplifted in him. And in some cases, like Mordecai, it was lifted up in righteousness. But in other instances, his pride was lifted up, his heart was lifted up, and it caused him to fall into unrighteousness, caused him to fall into sin. And we got to look at these examples and, and learn from them that, we don't want to allow ourselves to become overly prideful, such as in the case of King David, to where he, fell into committing acts of adultery and murder. You know what I mean? So we want to be aware of that, because even ourselves, we could fall into those same situations. Like we went over last week when we were dealing with temptation. When you're dealing with temptation, sometimes a person's pride can cause them to fall into the act, and giving into the acts of temptation, or the act of sin after being tempted, if that makes sense. So we want to take these as learning lessons in not allowing ourselves to get lifted up to the point to where we fall into sin. Because remember, we had a lot of, a few different definitions of pride. All right. And your pride can affect uh, many um, aspects of your life. All right. Pride can affect you in just so many different ways. I know I'm just coming to a loss of words because um, pride is so big in Israel. Just we as Israelites, period, we are very prideful. That's just, it seems to be a part of our genetic makeup or something, that we're just a very prideful people. And pride can affect things such as your marriage. Pride can affect your work relationships. Pride can affect your friendships. All right. So we got to remember that. We got to think about that when we allow pride to come in. Like in your marriage, you allow pride to creep up in your marriage, you can end up causing pain or causing hurt to your wife or to your kids in a way that you don't even realize that you've caused them pain, that you've caused hurt, and caused them to have feelings of resentment, or even in some cases feelings of hatred towards their spouse, because the other partner has let pride creep in. And with pride, sometimes people may say or do things that they normally wouldn't say or normally wouldn't do, and cause that hurt, to cause that pain. And the next thing you know, what ends up happening is a husband and wife, they're at odds with each other. The affection starts to dwindle away, the love starts to dwindle away. And then what ends up happening, next thing you know, you seeing it happen almost every day, especially among these celebrities, where all of a sudden they're in the midst of divorce. And we already know what the Bible says about divorce, but just looking at the overall general overview of marriage and how pride can affect it. You know what I mean? Um, and that could come in so many different forms. It could be something, like I said, something one spouse may have said to the other one. It could be, something that the other may have done or not done, and pride could seep in. All right. Work relationships, it could be the same thing. You could be at work, a coworker may ask you to do something, or the boss may ask you to do something, or tell you you've done something, or you may have done something wrong at work. And now you're being corrected, and you can allow pride to get the best of you. And the next thing you know, they're arguing with their boss, they're arguing with a coworker. Sometimes nowadays those arguments can lead to physical um, disagreements, physical battles, fights, where people are being caught up in allowing themselves to end up getting into fistfights at work nowadays. Sometimes it goes to the extreme nowadays to where a person is now bringing a gun to work and shooting coworkers out of, because their pride was hurt. We've got to be aware of these things. Friendships can end because of pride. A person, you may say something to a friend, and it could be said out of jest, meaning you're just jesting, you're joking around, you're clowning around with them. That was, always one thing that I always made sure that I would never partake in when it came with being around a group of friends. Even though you know how our people are, you could be around a group of your friends and they constantly talk about each other, laugh about each other, crack jokes about each other. I would always make it a point to not partake in any of that. It was just something that was in me that just always realized that, this kind of stuff can lead to contention. And even though you may be joking around, you can end up saying something that could offend a friend. And then they could, even though they may still be cool with you, they will still harbor that resentment towards you. For they could hold it in for a long time and you won't even know it. That now you've turned this friend into a frenemy. And in a lot of cases, people don't even realize that. And it's done out of what? It's done out of pride. It's done out of pride. Somebody said something in a joking way and you let the pride get the best of you, and now you're mad. You're seething inside. And you may not say nothing to them, but harboring those feelings, harboring that resentment can, it can end up in the end causing a lot of damage. All right. Um, and that's the next thing we're going to actually get into. Pride can cause a lot of things to happen. Pride can cause strife. Pride can cause contention. Pride can cause destruction. It can cause trouble in your relationships, trouble at home, trouble personally, trouble at work. Pride can cause anger. You can find, a person out of pride can become very bitter and very, very angry towards the people around them. Pride can cause denial. It can cause dishonesty. Pride can cause contempt. Pride can cause irritation, frustration. Judgment comes from pride. Vainglory comes from pride. Conceitedness comes from pride. So all these things that we just named, pride causes these things. We're going to deal with some of them individually. We've got lessons that deal with all of these different topics: strife, contention, destruction, trouble, anger, denial, dishonesty, contempt, irritation, frustration, judgment, vainglory, conceitedness. All of those are topics within themselves. Whole lessons can be taught just based on those. All right. We're going to touch up on a few of them um, in this lesson. We're not going to go through every single one of them. That would take way, 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 way too much time. But we are going to deal with, with some of these causes of pride. All right. Um, let's first go to 2 Timothy 3:1.
The book of 2 Timothy, chapter 3 and verse 1. This know also that in the last days perilous times shall come.
So in the last days, we're going to see perilous times. Perilous times. And we're living through those days right now where you cannot walk out your house without having to worry about whether or not you're going to make it back home. Are you going to get into a car accident? Are you going to run into the wrong person and just anything could happen? A knife could get pulled, a gun could get pulled nowadays. You could walk out the door and any little thing you can do now, you can end up getting arrested. And in some cases, arrested for not doing anything wrong. You know what I mean? So when you walk out your house nowadays, there is no guarantee that you're going to make it home, that you're going to actually return. That's how perilous, that's how dangerous the times have come now. It's dangerous to walk out your house. People are walking out their house and all of a sudden they get attacked by dogs. Somebody let their dogs run around the neighborhood. Some places in some areas you can walk out your house and next thing you know, you can find a mountain lion or a bear hanging out in your yard, depending on where you live. People are letting, their kids go outside to play. And there's no guarantee that the kid is going to walk back through the doors. You're hearing stories like this every day. Well, I just let them go out in the front yard and play, and I went out there to go check on them. They were gone. I don't know what happened to them. They just disappeared. The story of the little girl. She was a little Edomite girl. Got into an argument with her stepmother. I don't know if you heard about that. This was just like a few months ago. Got into an argument with the stepmother. She stormed off and went in her room. So the stepmother made lunch, thought the girl was in her room. An hour later, she went to go check on her, let her know, like, hey, come and eat lunch. The girl was gone. And I'm going to tell you, I was one of the people that the first thing I thought was, you know what, that lady lying. She knows she did it. I was sure. I was 100% positive, like a lot of people, that the stepmother had something to do with that little girl going missing while the father was at work. Just listening to the story, well, the stepmother said that her and the stepdaughter got into an argument. Did you know about this story? You know what I'm talking about? You haven't. Let me look this up. I'm gonna look up the story. I'm not gonna play the video. I'll just look up the story. What ended up happening was that the little girl got mad, went in her room, but a few minutes later she got mad and went outside. And was while they lived in a little rural area, the little girl storms off, left the house, and the stepmom didn't know. She got picked up by the FedEx driver that dropped deliveries off. You know what I'm talking about now? Yeah. FedEx driver had rolled up, kidnapped the little girl, raped her, and killed her just in the blink of an eye. That's how perilous the times have come. Let me grab the story. Hold on. Let me share my screen. But this is how perilous the times have come, that you can't even let your kids go outside and play. You not like when we were kids, you know what I mean? You jump on your bike and you're gone all day. Your parents didn't have to worry about where you were. They didn't have to worry about what you were doing. But now, you know what I mean? You let your kids go outside, you gotta be panicked all day, wondering, are they gonna be okay? Are they gonna make it back home? He tried to claim that he hit her with the vehicle, and and that he panicked, and instead of taking her to the hospital, he killed her. Says a FedEx driver panicked after striking a 6-year-old girl in Texas with his work van and threw her in the truck where he killed her, authorities said. Tanner Lynn Horner, 31, who was charged with capital murder and aggravated kidnapping, told authorities he played a strand in his work truck after he struck her with it, according to an arrest warrant affidavit released Thursday. Horner allegedly told investigators the child was not seriously injured. He accidentally backed the truck into her. Horner also told investigators he even spoke to the girl in the van where she told him her name, the affidavit said. but he killed her after he panicked and because she was going to tell her father about being hit by the FedEx truck the defendant was operating, the affidavit said. Multiple media outlets reported Thursday Athena's mother, Maitland Gandy, saying Horner was delivering Athena's Christmas present. You can be anything Barbie doll shortly before she was killed. Athena was robbed of the opportunity to grow up to be anything she wanted to be, Gandy said, while at times breaking down and crying. I was supposed to bring Athena back home to Oklahoma after Christmas break. Now instead, Athena will be cremated and she will come home in an urn because I am not anywhere close to being ready to let my baby go. The affidavit said Athena's stepmother called 911 to report the girl went missing from their home in Paradise in Wise County on November 30th, about 6:41 p.m. The child was reported missing an hour after her stepmother last saw her in her temporary bedroom, which was a converted storage shed she shared with her stepsister, the affidavit said. Investigators, according to the affidavit, learned FedEx delivered a package around the time she went missing. Investigators worked with the contracting company delivering packages for FedEx to determine which van and driver made the delivery. Investigators also learned the FedEx truck was equipped with cameras that captured 1 minute clips, the affidavit said. An employee with the FBI, the affidavit said, analyzed video evidence and found the driver had taken a young girl who was visibly similar to Athena in his van. The driver was seen on video talking to her in the van. Investigators were able to identify Horner as the driver. Horner, after allegedly admitting he killed the girl, also allegedly told investigators where to find her. Law enforcement personnel found the dead child in water, the affidavit said. Horner was arrested Friday, 2 days after the girl disappeared, which prompted a large search with around 200 volunteers from the community. On Friday, authorities found her body southeast of the city of Boyd, a city about 11 miles away, Wise County Sheriff Lane Atkins told reporters. We do have a confession, Atkins said at a news conference Friday night. A bond for Horner was set at 1.5 million. It was not immediately clear Thursday night if Horner had an attorney. FedEx has said in a statement that its thoughts are with the family and the company is cooperating fully with law enforcement. Words cannot describe our shock and sorrow at the reports surrounding this tragic event. Let me see if I can find another one. Yeah, here it is. Sexual assault charges filed against Fed because he raped that little girl. Sexual assault charges filed against FedEx driver accused in 7-year-old girl's death. It says the FedEx driver arrested earlier this month and accused of killing 7-year-old Athena Strand now faces 3 unrelated charges of sexual assault of a child dating back to 2013, NBC5 has learned. Tanner Lynn Horner, 31, has been held in the county jail on charges of alleged capital murder of a person under 10 and aggravated kidnapping since his arrest on December 2nd. Online records from the Wise County Jail show Horner is now also facing 3 counts of sexual assault of a child under 17 with bonds of $15,000 each. Horner remains in the Wise County Jail held on bonds now totaling $1,545,000. The new charges of sexual assault of a child, which were filed on Wednesday, were alleged to have taken place 9 years ago, according to information obtained by NBC5. The alleged assaults all took place in 2013 on June 1st, August 11th, and December 6th. Further details about the charges have not yet been confirmed, including whether the allegations come from one victim or multiple victims. After his arrest earlier this month, Horner told investigators he hit Strand with his truck after making delivery at her home, but that she wasn't seriously injured. He said he panicked and strangled her after she had said she was going to tell her father about the accident. This is talking about the others. You could look it up. I know I read other stories where after, I believe, the autopsy of the little girl, it was found that she had been sexually assaulted. Yeah, there's so many stories. You can look the story up later on if you get a chance to. But again, the main point of this is the fact that We are living in perilous times, as Timothy 3:1 says. Is this know also that in the last days perilous times shall come? It's dangerous just to walk out your doors. It's dangerous just to let your kids go outside. It's dangerous just being in your home because you got to worry about somebody breaking in, home invasions, all kinds of stuff. But it says, for men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud. People are very full of pride in today's times, and which is a contributor to the dangers, to the perils that we have to endure in these days. Blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce, despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, high minded, lovers of pleasures more than lovers of God. So we want to make sure that we don't become like a lot of people are today, that people are more lovers of pleasures more than they are lovers of God. A lot of people have written off the Most High. They don't believe in the Most High. There are a lot of so-called self-proclaimed atheists in running around this world, which is a big contributor to the perilous times that we're living in, the dangerous times we're living in. God has been taken out of the school system. God's been taken out of almost every part of this society here in Babylon the Great, even though they proclaim themselves to be a Christian nation. That's what you hear all the time. All right. So we want to make sure that we don't fall into that unbelief, that we don't become high minded like a lot of people do in this worldly or new world or new age way of thinking, that there is no God. God doesn't believe, doesn't exist. I'm God. I'm my own God. You know what I mean? All kind of witchcraft, idolatry, and things that are popping up. Let's go to Romans 11 and 20.
The book of Romans, chapter 11 and verse 20. Well, because of unbelief they were broken off, and thou stayest by faith, be not high minded, but fear.
So it says, well, because of unbelief, they were broken off. It's talking about those branches that were broken off, talking about the northern kingdom when you read Romans 11. Why were they broken off? Because of their unbelief. They didn't believe in the Most High. They decided to get caught up in idolatry. And so they were broken off. And the Most High gave the northern kingdom place for them to repent and to be grafted in. Although Christians and especially these apologetics have no understanding of Romans 11, think that it's talking about everybody, that the Gentiles were broken off and they can be grafted in. No, it's talking about the northern kingdom. All right. But in this context, as well, because of unbelief, they were broken off, and thou standest by faith. Be not high minded, but fear. That's one of those things, because we just read that in these last days, there are a lot of people that are high minded. They are lovers of pleasures more than lovers of God. We've got to make sure that we are not high minded, but that we show that we've got fear of the Most High, that we have fear of the Lord in us. All right. And that we don't allow ourselves to be taken in unbelief, in not believing in the Most High, not having faith, not having love towards the Most High and towards each other. Go to Hebrews 3 and 12.
The book of Hebrews, chapter 3 and verse 12. Take heed, brethren, lest there be in any of you an evil heart of unbelief in departing from the living God.
So that's very heavy. It's a warning. Take heed, beware, be cautious, brethren, lest there be in any of you an evil heart of unbelief. To be unbelieving, the Most High says that's having that's having a very evil heart, an evil heart of unbelief. In doing what? In departing from the living God. A lot of our people don't believe that God exists. They believe in witchcraft and voodoo, wizardry, all things that we're learning here in Babylon the Great because it's being pushed on us as children. Movies like Harry Potter, Disney Channel with, the magic of Disney, and everything's about magic and the magic kingdom and everything being magical, and all of this is being taught to children in every part of their lives, that it's okay to be caught up in idolatry. It's okay to be caught up in wizardry and witchcraft. There's nothing wrong with it in the eyes of today's society, in these perilous times that we're living in. People being taken away and drawn away from the Most High through television, through the media, such as the internet, radio, all of these things are giving people an evil heart of unbelief, especially the Israelite man and woman, the so called Blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans. A lot of our people are allowing themselves to get caught up in the ways of the world. I'll put it that way. Living by the works of the flesh, giving into the works of the flesh, allowing themselves to be tempted and giving into their temptations, and allowing pride to enter into their heart, which causes them to what? Depart from the living God. Remember, Sirach 10 and 12, the beginning of pride is when one departeth from God, and his heart is turned away from his maker. For pride is the beginning of sin. Remember, we read that earlier. So we have to remember that we take heed and not allow ourselves to have an evil heart of unbelief. What is the evil heart of unbelief? Departing from the living God, which is what? Pride. That is pride. Let's go to Psalms 14 and 1.
The book of Psalms 14 and verse 1. The fool has said in his heart, there is no God. They are corrupt. They have done abominable words. There is none that doeth good.
So this is for those atheists out there, for those people that say, oh man, God don't exist. That Bible is fake. What are you even reading that for? You're going to have family members that may say that to you, friends, co-workers. Oh man, that Bible stuff, they don't want to have nothing to do with the Bible, but yet they celebrate Christmas. They celebrate Easter, which makes no sense. You don't believe that there's a God, but yet you partake in these said holidays that supposedly honor said God that you supposedly don't believe in. It's crazy. You see the confusion around Christianity
Right.
and atheism. It's crazy. It makes no sense. I don't believe in God. It's like, you don't believe in God, but why do you have a Christmas tree and lights on your house and presents under your tree ready to celebrate? This doesn't make sense. The fool had said in his heart, there is no God. Anybody out here in this world that's saying God don't exist, there is no God, you are a fool. And look at the attributes that the Most High gives to them. He says they are corrupt. They have done abominable works. There is none that doeth good. And that's what you really see when you take a step back and you watch people or see people, hear people that say that there's no God, that they're a self-proclaimed atheist. That's what you see. You see that they are somebody that's corrupt. They have corrupted their life in every single way. They have done abominable works. When you step back and look at their life, you can see they're that person that's out there partying, drinking, smoking. And not to say that there's not Christians out there doing it. There are a lot of Christians out there doing these very things. There are Israelites out there doing these very things. People that claim they know they're Israel, and they're caught up doing these same and abominable things. Smoking weed, drinking, doing drugs, going to the club, partying, going to the strip club, committing fornication, committing adultery, stealing, lying, cheating, committing murder, being caught, minds full of hatred towards their brothers and sisters, conceitedness, all of these things. You see all these abominable works within them. All right. Um, so we want to make sure that we don't find ourselves falling into what? That evil heart of unbelief, not finding yourself being a fool and saying that God does not exist. Because there are people that were in the truth that have fallen out of the truth and now are saying they no longer believe in God. They don't believe and ascribe to the Bible anymore. They've completely gone the opposite direction. When at one point, some of them were running, they were battling hard for the truth. They were going hard for it. These are those people that when you're teaching out in the streets, or you're teaching them at home, or you're teaching, family members, you're teaching friends, and they're like, man, get out of here with that book. I don't want to hear that. There is no God. Those are those people that, they don't want to know God. They don't desire to have the knowledge of God. They don't want the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of this book. They could care less because their job is more important. School is more important. Making money is more important. Getting that self-fulfillment of maybe their sport is their God. Their achievements, winning trophies, winning medals, being the top earner at work, being the top earner on YouTube, having the most views on YouTube, being the best TikToker or the most successful TikToker. Those are the things that are on their mind. But they don't desire the knowledge of God. Grab Job 21 and 14 through 15.
The book of Job, chapter 21 and verse 14. Therefore, they say unto God, depart from us, for we desire not the knowledge of thy ways. What is the Almighty that we should serve him? And what profit should we have if we pray unto him?
See, that's pride. That's Israel. Therefore they say unto God, depart from us, for we desire not the knowledge of thy ways. They're telling God, you know what, get out of here. We don't want to have nothing to do with you. We want no part of you. What is the Almighty that we should serve him? Put it in today's terms. Who's you? Who are you that I should serve you? Who are you that I should listen to you? Who are you that I should bow down to you? That's what their thoughts are about God. Who's you? Isn't that how our people react to each other? Like, man, who's you? What you looking at? I don't know you. You don't know me. And that's how our people treat God. He's insignificant in their life. And what profit should we have if we pray unto him? What are you going to do for me if I pray? Well, what has he done for me? What has God done for our people? You hear that stuff. Again, the fool hath said in his heart, there is no God. Let's go to 1 Timothy 6 and 17 through 18.
The book of First Timothy, chapter 6, and verse
17 and 18.
17. Charge them that are rich in this world, that they be not high minded, nor trust in uncertain riches, but in the living God, who giveth us richly all things to enjoy. That they do good, that they be rich in good works, ready to distribute, willing to communicate.
So this is heavy. He says, charge them that are rich in this world that they be not high minded. Because we've been reading in the past few precepts about people being high minded in these last days, especially those that are rich. The rich in this world are highly esteemed. They are looked at as gods in this world. Your Donald Trumps, your Elon Musk, your Jeff Bezos, your LeBron James, your P. Diddy's. But when you step back and and look behind the curtain, you see what's really going on. They're full of pride. They're full of hatred. They're full of envy and jealousy. All these things are surrounding these people. They're very high minded. They trust in what? They trust in nothing but their money and their riches. In which he's telling us, don't trust in uncertain riches, but trust in what? The living God, who giveth us richly all things to enjoy. There's nothing wrong with being rich, but don't let your riches run your life. Don't let your riches become your God, because that's what most rich people do. Their riches, their money, their possessions become their idols. We have to remind our brothers that do have money that they remember to what? To do good. What is good? The keeping of his commandments. Grab that real quick in Romans 7:12.
The book of Romans, chapter 7 and verse 12. Wherefore the law is holy, and the commandments holy, and just and good.
So the commandments and the law are just and good. They are holy, just, and good. So we got to remind our brothers that do have money, that are rich. It's not bad to be rich as long as you earn your riches righteously. You didn't deceive anybody. You didn't steal from anybody. You didn't defraud anybody. You didn't embezzle from anybody. You got your riches righteously. Hey, it's all good. But be ready and willing to put in good works. Be ready to distribute. Be willing to communicate. Some of our brothers are taking this to the extreme to where they're, you know what, you're rich, support this truth. And trying to put the guilt trip on people in order, to get them to give money. You got to be aware of that also. Don't fall into some of those traps. All right. Let's go to 1 Timothy 6 and 10.
The book of First Timothy, chapter 6 and verse 10. For the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some covet after, they have erred from the faith, and pierced themselves through with many sorrows.
That's pride too. Having that covetous spirit on the person. Their love of money says, for the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. You got to be aware of that. Trusting in your riches, loving money has been the downfall of many of our people. And it's crazy, especially right now. If you look at the situation that's going on with Jamie Foxx right now, laid up in the house. How long has he been in the hospital now? It's been like a month almost. And nobody can say what exactly is wrong with him. But this is another one of those situations where they're saying that um, he spoke out about P. Diddy and this secret lifestyle that this man has been living all these years. And people are starting to speak out on it about these LGBTQ parties and stuff like that this man would host. And now people that are starting to speak out are suddenly coming down with illnesses and ending up in the hospital. Some of them have even ended up dead. The shocking thing to me are some of the names that are coming out being associated with this man and his parties, and seeing how wicked and evil this entertainment industry is and how bad it's become. And again, have to say, stop letting your children idolize these so-called celebrities. People such as the baddest man on the planet, Mike Tyson himself, being associated with going to these gay parties of P. Diddy's. Will Smith associated with going to these wild and out gay parties. Um, what's his name? His name is right at the tip of my tongue. That was married to Mariah Carey, the one that made a little bit of mention about the Israelites and they shut him up. Nick Cannon. Nick Cannon's name being caught up in the midst of this P. Diddy stuff. Usher name being caught up in the midst of this stuff. That from at the age of 14, his mother was foolish enough to send him to go live with P. Diddy for a year to learn the industry. And the stories that are coming out now about the things that P. Diddy was doing to Usher. Justin Bieber, his name is also being associated with hanging out for days on end with P. Diddy. Puff Daddy. Now you know why they call his name Puff. And you got to take a step back and be like, man, you mean to tell me? And you know, we had an somewhat of an idea of how bad it was, but this rabbit hole is going deep, 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 deep. So you got to take a step back and ask yourself, is there anybody in this industry that hasn't had, that hasn't partaken in the wicked and evil, stuff that goes on behind closed doors? Is there anybody? Look at Whitney Houston. Look at her drug addiction caused to her. Bobby Brown, Michael Jackson, Prince. The list just goes on and on and on and on and on and on. But yet our people continue to allow their kids to idolize these people. Tupac, Biggie, Jam Master Jay. I was watching a documentary the other day that I was shocked to hear that Jam Master Jay um, at one point in time had 50 Cent um, signed to his label. And his name coming up in associated with some of the things that went on around 50 Cent himself being shot and almost killed. And the same players that were, involved in 50 Cent getting shot, some of the same people that Jam Master Jay apparently supposedly was having dealings with in roundabout ways, that they could also be, part of the reason why he got killed. And the names that were, I was shocked. Seriously, I was like, how is it that um, these celebrities, they become so-called big time names in the entertainment industry, making lots of money, but yet they're still hanging out in the hood with thugs and gang members and drug dealers, taking pictures with them, kicking it with them. And what I was, the documentary, they were showing like people like Curtis Blow from back in the days, hanging out with some of these drug dealers, taking pictures with them, going to parties with them, going to clubs with them, kicking it with them. Our people cannot seem to get out of their own way. And then we wonder why we're in the condition that we're in today. It comes back to pride. Our people cannot let that pride go and stop letting these celebrities be the idols for your kids. It's sad, seriously. I mean, grab Proverbs 1 and 19. Hold on
The
one
book of
second. Let me see. Let me see something real quick. Hold on. Proverbs 1. Start at verse 15. Read 15 through 19.
the book of Proverbs, chapter 1 and verse 15. My
Actually,
son,
wait. So wait, hold on. Um, start at verse 10. Read 10 through 19 to get more context to what's going on.
Proverbs chapter 1 and verse 10. My son, if sinners entice thee, consent thou not. If they say, come with us, let us lay wait for blood. Let us lurk privily for innocent blood, innocent without cause. Let us swallow them up alive as the grave, and whole as those that go down into the pit. We shall find all precious substance. We shall fill our houses with spoil. Cast in thy lots among us. Let us all have one purse. My son, walk not thou in the way with them. Refrain thy foot from their path, for their feet run to evil and make haste to shed blood. Surely in vain the net is spread in the sight of any bird, and they lay wait for their own blood. They look privily for their own lives. So so are the ways of everyone that is greedy of gain, which taketh away the life of the owners thereof.
So that's how it is with the person that is greedy for gain. All they care about is getting money. And that's what you can see, um, as I was just mentioning. Like they were saying that Mike Tyson was so far down on his luck that he was willing to go and beg P. Diddy to help him, to find a way that he could crawl out of the financial burden that he found himself in after squandering over $300 million. He loved money that so much that he was willing to go to P. Diddy's parties and partake in this homosexual activity just so he could get money, so he could get back on top again. So, and it seems like it's been that way for a lot of celebrities, a lot of the New Edition. At one point, they signed temporarily with P. Diddy's label so that they can try and make music and make money and crawl themselves out of financial bind. And as the story goes, everyone that goes to this man and asks for a handout, to ask for help, there's something in return you got to give. And you go back, like I said, the rabbit hole runs deep. Go back and look at the names associated with this man and his label and those he so-called helped. Those are those of our people that are greedy for gain. They will do anything for money. Anything. Their pride is lifted up so much that, like, man, I can't be poor again. No, nope. I don't ever want to. No, there's no way. I had all that money. I'm broke, but I don't want to be broke ever again. I'll do anything to make that money back. Anything. So be real careful, because even some of these so-called gangster rappers that act so hood and so tough and so, even a lot of them have got caught up. But yet parents are allowing their kids to idolize these people. All right, so real quick, we're gonna go back to dealing with some of these causes of pride. Because remember, we gave a list earlier of some of the things that pride can cause, like strife, contention, destruction, trouble, anger, denial, dishonesty, contempt, irritation, frustration, judgment, vainglory, and conceitedness. We're going to deal with, just some of them, not all of them. We would be here for the next 5-6 hours or so. Like I said, each one of these topics you could do whole lessons on, which we have already, that we will put out along with all the other lessons that we're doing. Like we said, we're going to stick with the milk to edify the people so that they can grow. You can become a better person. You know how to actually change your mind, because that's what this is all about, changing that inner man, becoming a new creature. All right. Let's go to, we're going to deal with strife first. That's the first one. Pride can cause strife. Let's start out with going to Proverbs 15 and 18.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 15 and verse 18. A wrathful man stirreth up strife, but he that is slow to anger appeareth strife.
Appeaseth strife. It says, a wrathful man stirreth up strife, but he that is slow to anger appeaseth strife. So you got to be aware of what kind of people you're allowing yourself to be around. A person that's full of pride causes a lot of strife. There's always strife and contention around that person. And the Bible calls this person a wrathful man. A wrathful man stirreth up strife, but he that is slow to anger appeaseth strife. A person that's slow to anger, they're gonna basically cause strife to go away. They're not gonna give into it. A person that's full of tough talk, a person that's full of hatred and anger, and that's that wrathful man. They're quick to argue. They're quick to debate. They're quick to want to fight and throw hands. That's a wrathful man. And they say that kind of man is the one that stirreth up strife. And that kind of man is a man that's full of what? Full of pride. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 16 and verse 28.
Proverbs 16:28. A forward man showeth strife, and a whisper separateth chief friends.
So it actually says a froward man soweth strife. So you reap what you sow. A froward man soweth strife. A froward person is that kind of person. They don't care what they say. They don't care what they do. They don't care what other people think. They don't care how other people feel. That's that person that's always just all about me. I'm going to do me. I go from 0 to 100 in a quickness. Listen to the things that they say, the words that come out of their mouth. That person is the kind of person that loves to sow strife. They always are causing strife. It says, and a whisper separated chief friends. That's that person that underhandedly they'll talk bad about this brother to another brother, then they'll talk bad about that person. And you see that mainly among women, but you're seeing it more and more among men. The whispering and the backbiting, the cattiness. You're seeing that happen with a lot of men in today's times, which is sad. It's scary. But a person like that can, it's called sowing discord between friends. To where now you've got one person in the ear of different friends and causing them to not like each other and causing contention between them. And in a lot of cases, people don't even realize that that's what was going on until it's too late. They've gotten into an argument, they've gotten into a fight, they've broken up their friendship. And then it could be years later that they find out that, oh, so-and-so was saying that to you. Well, they were saying this to me, that you were saying this about me to them. Like, no, that's what they were telling me about you. And then next thing you know, it's like, oh, man, you mean we got into this whole big old thing because this person was playing both sides. And you want to be aware of the kind of people you have around you. You want to be aware of a person. If a person is a two-faced, backbiting, type of person, you don't want them around you. But unfortunately, a lot of our people don't mind having those kind of people around them. Those kind of people that are full of strife. What about the other one? What about contention? A lot of our people allow themselves to be in situations where they're either around people or around a situation where there's lots of contention. Pride does what? Pride causes contention. Let's go to Proverbs 17 and 14.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 17 and verse 14. The beginning of strife is as when one letteth out water. Therefore, leave off contention before it be meddled with.
So the beginning of strife is as when one letteth out water. What happens when you turn a water faucet on? Unless the faucet has a slow leak and it's slowly leaking, But the way the faucet is designed is that the faucet is designed that it holds the water. Then as soon as you turn that knob, what happens? That water just gushes out. It just pours out. And that's how strife is. The beginning of strife. It just pours out. And which leads to what? Contention. It says, therefore, leave off contention before it be meddled with. As an Israelite, the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, we should be trying to teach our people how to let go of pride before they find themselves falling into strife and contention. But unfortunately, that's not what's happening in our communities. They're being taught, the kids are being brought up under the street code. And the street code is you always got to show how tough you are. You got to always show how bad you are. You can't let nobody in the streets know you a punk. You can't be no punk out here in these streets. That's the verbiage you hear. That's what you hear. You can't show weakness. Weakness will get you killed out here in these streets. You hear this stuff. But what we should be trying to teach these kids is to leave off from contention, to avoid contention, to avoid strife, and not to mess around with it. Shut it off, shut it down before it gets meddled with. Turn off that faucet. Turn off the faucet before the water overflows the sink or overflows the tub, so that you don't find yourself in a situation that could potentially become dangerous, because that's what happens with strife and contention. It could eventually lead to a very dangerous situation where it could lead to arguing. Arguing leads to pushing and shoving. Pushing and shoving leads to fist swinging and fist punching and kicking and taking down to the ground. And all of that could lead to somebody pulling a weapon, a knife, a club, a gun. Become very dangerous. Let's go to Proverbs 13 and 10.
In the book of Proverbs, chapter 13 and verse 10. Only by pride cometh contention, but with the well adverse is wisdom.
Well advised is wisdom. It says, only by pride cometh contention. That's the only way contention can happen, is by pride, by one or both parties or all parties involved in whatever the debate or argument may be, or whatever the situation is. But it's always caused by what? Pride. Only by pride cometh contention. But with the well advised is wisdom. That's why we say we got to teach the kids at an early age. We got to feed them with the sincere milk of the word. We've got to teach these kids so that they can grow thereby and understand and learn wisdom. They can learn how to keep the commandments. They can learn how to deal with that person of the inner self at a young age before it's too late. Because what is their inner self being inundated with on a daily basis? Wicked and evilness. Every day. They're seeing contention, they're seeing strife, they're seeing fighting and arguing. They're seeing murder and hearing about murder, rape, all kinds of violence, everything. This is what the kids are dealing with. Let's go to Proverbs 18 and 6.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 18 and verse 6. A fool's lips enter into contention, and his mouth calleth for strokes.
So a person that enters into contention, it usually happens based on what? Their lips, their mouth. That's usually how it starts. You say something to them, they say something to you, and the next thing you know, things escalate. The Bible says that you're a fool. You're driving down the street, somebody drives by you, cuts you off, and flips you the finger. And then you, man, I'm going to say something to him. Is that not pride? That temptation we talked about last week. Man, I just got to say something. You know, it's that urge. You just want to respond. You got to do something. And so you pull up and you give them words. Man, who you flipping off? And then now they come back at you. You go back at them. Now the car stopped. Now you're out in the middle of the roadway arguing. The next thing you know, there's fists flying. Pow, pow, pow. A fool's lips enter into contention, and his mouth calleth for strokes. Your mouth is going to get you into trouble. Whether it's getting spanked by the Most High and getting whipped, or somebody busting you in the mouth. It's going to be one or the other. But your lips, or a fool's lips, are going to enter you into contention, and is going to call for somebody or something to want to shut that mouth of yours. Actually, the next of the precept, verse 17, a fool's mouth is his destruction, and his lips are the snare of his soul. You got to be aware of what you say, what you do, and not letting pride get the best of you. And that's part of the reason why we're living in these perilous times, because of pride. You're walking through Walmart, or somebody's walking through Walmart, and somebody acting, the aisles already are very narrow, and you've got 5-10 people trying to move through the store with a basket. They've got kids with them. You know what I mean? And it's going to happen. Somebody might accidentally bump into you. That happens to me all the time. I could just be somebody bumping into me, like, oh, and then they're like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, it's all right. It's no big deal. It's no problem. And you can see them, the look on it, like, oh, whew, all right. And go about their day like, whew, like, man, I'm glad I wasn't one of, somebody that's ready to argue, ready to fight. But you got to be on your toes nowadays, because it could just be that one person you accidentally bump into. I've bumped into people accidentally. I've had people bump into me. I accidentally bump into someone. I'm quick, like, I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to just, didn't even see you there. And, in most cases, they're like, oh, it's all right, man. No big deal. Just like I'll handle, like, you know what, man, it's no problem. No big deal. But you've got some people, no matter how much you apologize, they can't let it go. Like, you bump into them, or you kick their foot or stepped on their shoe, and oh man, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I didn't see you there. I was just, took a step backwards. I didn't even know you were back. Man, you got my shoes marked up, man. I know, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. Man, my Jordans is jacked up, man. They're dirty. And now they're ready to argue. Now they're ready to fight because you put a dirty mark on their Jordans, which was an accident. You're still hearing stories about people in clubs pulling out guns and shooting because somebody accidentally stepped on their foot in the club and they got into an argument. Dumb stuff. Dumb stuff. But that's a person that can't control their lips. They can't control that inner being. They can't control their urges. Let's go to Proverbs 22 and 10.
Book of Proverbs, chapter 22 and verse 10. Cast out the scorners, and contention shall go out. Yes, strife and reproach shall cease.
It's crazy. It says, cast out the scorner, and contention shall go out. A scorner is somebody that doesn't want to hear correction. They don't want to hear rebuke. They don't want to have somebody telling them what to do. The Bible says, cast out the scorner, and contention shall go out. Yea, strife and reproach shall cease. When you get rid of that person that has that kind of attitude that they don't want to be rebuked, they don't want to be corrected, they don't want to be chastised. Grab real quick, go to Proverbs 13 and 1. It shows you the exact definition of what a scorner is.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 13 and verse 1. A wise son heareth his father's instruction, but a scorner heareth not rebuke.
A scorner heareth not rebuke. A scorner is someone that doesn't want to be corrected. The scorner, um, a scorner just really does not want to be told what to do. There's somebody that's full of pride and haughtiness. Pride and haughtiness. In fact, grab that in Proverbs 21:24. I believe that one is.
The book of Proverbs 21 and 24 says, man's goings are of the Lord. How can a man then understand his own ways?
Are you sure you're in Proverbs?
20. Oh, I'm sorry, 24. Proverbs 21:24. It says, proud and haughty scorner is his name, who dealeth in proud wrath.
There you go. Proud and haughty scorner is his name, who dealeth in proud wrath. Remember, we read earlier, a wrathful man, what? Bring his what? Contention. So when it comes to a scorner, they're very proud, they're very haughty, and they deal in what? Proud wrath. That's person that quick to let their pride get the best of them, and they're quick to respond and want to argue, they want to fight, they want to contend, they want to battle, whatever word you want to use. They can't be reasoned with. They can't be, talked down. You can't put out that fire. That fire is quickly kindled in them. You want to beware of those kind of people, because that kind of person leads to what? That can lead to destruction. And that's another one that pride causes. Pride causes destruction. Let's go to Proverbs 10 and 14.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 10 and verse 14. Wise men lay up knowledge, but the mouth of the foolish is near destruction.
Wise men lay up knowledge, but the mouth of the foolish is near destruction. Wherever you see things being destroyed, whether it be lives, relationships, business dealings, there's always something or someone with a foolish mouth saying something foolish. That is the cause of it. It says, wise men lay up knowledge. We read earlier about wisdom. We want to make sure we teach these things to the kids at an early age so they lay up sound wisdom and they learn sound knowledge. So that they learn not to give into their temptations, not to give into their urges, not to allow pride to get the best of them, because it's by pride that makes you fall into the trap of sin, giving into your temptations, giving into your urges. Which what? The words of a person, the mouth of a foolish person is near destruction. It can destroy whole households can cause all kinds of contention, can destroy marriages, relationships. Let's go to Proverbs 10 and 29.
Book of Proverbs chapter 10 and verse 29. The way of the Lord is strength to the upright, but destruction shall be to the workers of iniquity.
But destruction shall be to the workers of iniquity. So the way of the Lord is strength to the upright. To those that are upright, what is that? Proverbs, not Proverbs. No. It's Psalms 19:13. Grab that real quick.
The book of Psalms chapter 19 and verse 13. Keep back thy servant also from presumptuous sins. Let them not have dominion over me. Then shall I be upright, and I shall be innocent from the great transgression.
That's what it means to be upright according to God, according to the Bible. Somebody that's not allowing themselves to get caught up in presumptuous sins. Then shall he be upright, he says. Then shall you be upright. When you could leave off from sin. That's what will make you an upright person. So going back to Proverbs 10 and 29, let's go back and read that again.
Proverbs chapter 10 and verse 29. The way of the Lord is strength to the upright, but destruction shall be to the workers of iniquity.
So the way of the Lord is strength to the upright. Who's the upright? Those that are keeping his law, statutes, and commandments. Those that are not allowing themselves to fall into the trap of sin. The way of the Lord is strength to them. That's what's going to strengthen you. That's what's going to give you that way out from falling into sin, for being able to deal with your temptations. That's going to allow you to deal with your pride. It says, but destruction shall be to the workers of iniquity. You allow yourself to get caught up in sin, you're going to get destroyed. Whether it's spiritually, mentally, or physically. In one of those ways, or two of those, all three maybe, you're going to find yourself in destruction or falling into destruction. And that all comes down to what? Pride. Pride causes this. Let's go to Proverbs 13:3.
The book of Proverbs chapter 13 and verse 3. He that keepeth his mouth keepeth his life, but he that openeth wide his lips shall have destruction.
He that keepeth his mouth keepeth his life. When you run into that person that you can see is a wrathful man, quick to get irritated, fast to get angry, quick to want to go into contention and debate and arguing, you have got to learn not to respond back. There's nothing wrong with remaining quiet. There's nothing wrong when knowing when to stay quiet. I remember a situation that happened to me back when I was in high school. Uh, like I said, there was very few of us so-called blacks in our high school. So the few of us that there were, we all, we all hung out together. We were all friends. We all, all grew up together. So I had known, this brother since like junior high school. I met him in seventh grade, and I think this was our junior, yes, our junior year of high school. Um, he and one of the other brothers, they got in, and to this day, I don't even know what they were fighting about. I don't even know why they were fighting. All I know is we were in the lunch area, and all of a sudden it was boom, 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 boom. We're like, what is going on? Turn around, and I don't want to use their names, but they were in the midst of just going at it. So, the other one, the one that I was talking about that I've known him from since seventh grade, he was a little bit bigger than the other one, was getting the best of him. And then it lasted for a good 3 minutes and they stopped. And, we're thinking that's it. But the one that won the fight let pride get the best. And this is something that's always among our people, especially if you talk to some of our people that grew up in in the suburbs, that grew up in these predominantly Caucasian areas, and there's very few of our people. What you find is there's always strife and contention among our own people, because there's always someone that's trying to put on a show for the other nations. They're always trying to show the other nations that they're the alpha male. They're the predominant so-called alpha, as they call it nowadays in the group. I don't really like that term. I'm just using it because I know that's what people are using nowadays.
Right.
Basically to try and show that, I'm the head nigga in charge here. So, they had their little fight. Lunch was over. Go to our fifth period class, and then sixth period, because I play sports, I have weightlifting at sixth period. We had to go in the weight room and lift weights. All right. So, like I said, and my earlier, I'm not that far from it even now. I don't work out pretty much really at all now. You know what I mean? I've spent my entire life working out. I don't have that drive of me to be spending hours on end working out. But especially back then, people that knew me, you know what I mean? Like I said, I haven't even worked out. I'm still not that far from it now. But back then, people knew, don't mess with me. You know what I mean? People knew that. They got to the point to where it started, you know what, don't mess with him. He knew better than to mess with me. But for whatever reason, just because he beat up so and so, got that little 3 minute fight, his adrenaline must have got the best of him. I'm in the weight room working out. And next thing I know, like, oh, so and so out there, he out there, he wants you to come out. I'm like, oh, I don't want to use his name.
Right.
But they're like, so and so. Like, he's out there for what? Like, yeah, he's out there. He said he wants you to come out. He's gonna kick yo. I'm stumped. I'm like, huh? You know what I mean? It's like this is a dude who's been a good friend of mine. I met you in seventh grade, and what do you want to fight me for? I haven't do nothing to you. And then I could hear him, oh, okay, yeah, tell that, come on. At that point, I'm just like, you know what? I'm not, I don't even know what he wants. I don't even know what he's, acting crazy about. But let me go out here and see what he wants. And so I go outside. There's, a crowd around him. And he gets in my face. Yeah, you next. I'm going to kick your. I said, what do you mean next for what? What am I next for? To get your kicked. And I looked down and said, for what? What do you want to fight me for? What did I do to you? Like, how long have I known you? Have I ever disrespected you? Have I ever said anything derogatory towards you? Have I ever did anything wrong to you? But he kept on going, wanting, like, come on, do something, do something. And that's just the kind of person I am. That I just say, you know what? This was my best friend. I'm not going to fight you. Especially to put on a show for, the whole football team was out there. It was the football team. We were in the weight room lifting. He played basketball. He had stopped playing football, I think, our sophomore year, and concentrated on basketball. But I'm sitting here like, man, I've known you for a while now, and I've never said anything. And now you want to come to me wanting to fight because you want to put on a show for all these white kids to try and make them, in their eyes, think that you're the dominant nigga on campus? Are you that stupid? So I just put my hands in back of me and I shut up. I didn't say nothing to him. I just let him keep going on, and I'm going to kick you. Do something. Do something. Touch me. Touch. You know how our people do. Touch me and watch what happens. Touch me and watch what happens. Do something and watch what happens. And I just licked him in the eyes and just sat there looking at him like. After about 5 minutes, he shut up. And we're just sitting there staring at each other. And then finally he just and walked away. I turned around, went back in the weight room. Everybody's sitting there looking like, you know what I mean? But the people that really knew me, they knew, like, you know what? He's not, he's not that kind. He's not going to fight over something stupid like that. But at the same time, they knew John, well, I'm just setting his name out. Like, it just came out. Sorry about that. You know better. You lucky he didn't whoop you. And to this day, sometimes I gotta think back to that day and still, you know what, and he still don't understand why I didn't whoop the living you know what out of him that day. To this day, he still don't know why I didn't, because it would have been real easy to do. Trust me. I could have tapped that butt right there in front of everybody real quick, embarrassed him in front of everybody, which he knows I was capable of doing. The only reason why I didn't is because I love that brother, man.
Right.
Loved him like a brother. And I couldn't believe that he actually came up to me and did that in front of everybody. You know what I mean? Just like what are you thinking? All because you want to try and, you it's like you got pumped up because you beat up so. I'm not him.
Right.
Don't get it twisted. But at the same time, because of my upbringing, I was level-headed enough to know when to shut up, to not let that strife, get in that contention and pride get the better of me. that I'm getting ready to sit here and whoop up my, one of my best friends over something stupid. Because what would that have solved? If we have, it was already bad enough that he and the other one had got into the fight that day. And to, like I said, to this day, I don't even know why they fought. I'm sitting there eating, we're talking, and we hear like a crowd of people, what, turn around and they're fighting. And here it is over 30 some years later, and I still don't know what them two fought about. I have somewhat of an idea why he came at me. And the reasons, like I said, because he wanted, like a lot of our people do in those situations where there's so few of us, they want to put on a show for the other nations to show that I'm, I'm the baddest nigga here. And you want to be the baddest nigga? I'll let you be the baddest nigga. That's fine. I'm not partaking. You could walk away and, I don't care. Anybody's, oh man, he punked out. I don't care. I punked out. So what? I'm a punk. If that's what you want to think I am, because I wasn't about to beat down one of my best friends, you know what I mean, over something stupid, then think what you want. But that's having that inner peace that, you know what I mean, you can fight off your urges. Because, I could tell the urge was there. You know what? Let me just bust him up real quick and shut him up. I was like, no, I'm not going to do that, man. That'd be stupid. Especially in the situation that we were in. There weren't that many of us. Like, what does it look like us out? And I was already thinking that when when those two fought. Because none of us had ever got into it like that before. You know what I mean? There was so few of us. It was like, no, you know what? We got to stick together. But, he was always the odd man out. And what ended up happening was going into our senior year, he transferred schools, even though he still lived in the area. But it was one of those things that when I look back, he was, you always have in the group that one person that's always causing strife and contention, backbiting. He was that person. And when he left, all of that went away. All of it went away. And it's sad how his life turned out, because he got caught up in drinking, got caught up in drugs, got caught, you know what I mean? And messed his life up. You know what I mean? So I know from experience that when you learn to control your mouth, you learn, and it's not the only time it's ever happened to me where people have gotten in my face and wanted to fight. And, that's just me. I'm going to let you talk. Just don't touch me. You've heard me say it before. Just don't touch me and we'll be good. I don't care what you say. You call me every name in the book. You can talk about my whoever. And just don't put your hands on me. He that keepeth his mouth keepeth his life. See, some people don't understand that when two, people get into a physical battle, the potential of somebody getting seriously hurt and dying is very high. And some people don't think about that. But I don't want that on my conscience. That you, especially now, that you potentially kill somebody. You know what I mean? Some people don't think about that stuff before they want to go out there putting hands on people. They don't think about that. All right. So he that keepeth his mouth keepeth his life, but he that openeth wide his lips shall have destruction. So, and it could have happened. What if I opened my mouth up and started talking back, and I could have had a bad day. where, I just wasn't feeling like fighting. And he started, we started duking it out, and he got the best of me that day. Not, you know what I mean? That very well could have happened. The Most High could have said, you know what? For you letting that pride get the best, I'm gonna let him whoop you up and embarrass you. You know what I mean? It could have
Right.
very well happened that way. You know what I mean? No matter how good of a fighter, I was, the Most High could have intervened, like, just for you being stupid and giving into it, I'm gonna let him beat you down and and embarrass you. But I knew better because I was taught better. You understand what I'm saying? Um, so we've got to keep that in mind. We've got to teach that to these kids, because a lot of these kids nowadays, they don't know how to make sound decisions. They lack discretion. And that's why I'm glad that that's something that was instilled in me at an early age, is having enough discretion to know when to keep your mouth closed, because it could lead you into a situation that you can, what could have happened? Luckily they got into the fight, and somehow, some way, there were no, they called them narcs at that time, but the school supervisors that are hired to, the security that's supposed to be on campus. Every other fight, they were quick to become running in, but for some reason, when two of the black kids was out there fighting, there was nobody around, nobody to be found. It's crazy. So let's go to is it Proverbs 16:18?
We read 13.
Yeah, let's go to Proverbs 16:18.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 16 and verse 18. Pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall.
Pride goeth before destruction, and an haughty spirit before a fall. So before you get destroyed, what is going to be there first? Pride. Pride is going to be your downfall. Pride is going to be the cause of your destruction. It is what it is. That haughty spirit, you're going to fall. You're going to fall hard. Let's go to Proverbs 18:12. Let's go try and get through these real quick.
Book of
Proverbs
Proverbs,
18:12.
chapter 18 and verse 12. Before destruction, the heart of man is haughty, and before honor is humility.
So before destruction, the heart of man is haughty. That's what happens. Before what breaks loose, the mind of a man is full of haughtiness, full of pride. And that leads one to their destruction. Let's go to Proverbs 24 and 1 through 2.
Book of Proverbs, chapter 24 and verse 1. Be not thou envious against evil men, neither desire to be with them, for their heart studieth destruction, and their lips talk of mischief.
Be not thou envious against evil men. We got to train our people, train the kids, especially, to stop envying and idolizing evil men. These rappers are evil people. These R&B singers are evil people. These people in the movie industry are evil people. A lot of these politicians are evil people. Just because they have money and fame and nice houses and nice cars and dress nice and they're on TV, they're on the radio, doesn't mean that they're good people. Unfortunately, here in Babylon the Great, that's what we've been shown, and that's what we've been told. That's what makes a person a good person, is how much money they make, how successful they are. But be not thou envious against evil men, neither desire to be with them. The young kids are seeing the drug dealer down the street driving the nice car, wearing the nice clothes, having all the women. And what do? They envy that. They desire to have it. And next thing you know, they get caught up in the drug dealing life themselves. The drug dealer may see them looking at his nice car and be like, oh, you want to have what I have? I can show you how to do it, young brother. I can show you. Come and see me tomorrow at, around 1 o'clock. Oh, I got school. Man, forget school. Just be here at 1 o'clock. I'm going to show you how to make more money than they'll ever show you how to make at school. And the next thing you know, they're ditching school to come meet up with Joe Blow drug dealer down the block. And he's like, you know what? You see this package right here? Take this package, across town over to so-and-so and drop it off with him. I'll pay you $200. $200? For real? They do it. Come back, give them the $200. And that's how they get them caught. Now they're like, you know what? Hey, you going to school today? Oh, no, man, I got something to do. That's how it starts. Be not thou envious against evil men, neither desire to be with them. For their heart studieth destruction, and their lips talk of mischief. That's that one that's going to be filling the young kid's ear up with all kinds of mischief, with all kinds of evil. You see, brother, out here in these streets, weakness will get you killed. Weakness to get you killed out here in these streets, brother. You got to be a lion out here. Kill or be killed. Don't ever get caught without your strap. You got to be about your money. You know what I'm saying. That's how it is. That's how they talk.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be down for yours. Filling the kid's head up with all kinds of wicked and evil, all kinds of mischief. If you don't teach your kids, someone else will. If we don't teach our people, somebody else will. And I'm talking men, women, and children, because a lot of our men and women still act like children. A lot of them are, their minds are so screwed up that sometimes you got to wonder, you're how old? But the things that a lot of our people speak, a lot of the things that they do when they let that pride enter in, leads them into a world of trouble. Let's go to Job 3 and 26. Let's deal with the trouble real quick. The book of Job, chapter 3, 26.
The book of Job, chapter 3 and verse 26. I was not in safety, neither had I rest, neither was I quiet, yet trouble came.
Yet trouble came. You could just be minding your own business and trouble can come. You can find yourself in the midst of trouble. Like we said, just walking out your house can be dangerous nowadays. Sitting in your house can be dangerous nowadays. Like the cop that busted in on the one dude eating the ice cream and shot and killed him. I can't think of his name right now. He was just sitting in his house minding his own business. Police bust in, shoot and kill him. It's not safe. Let's go to Proverbs 11 and 1 through 8.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 11 and verse 1. A false balance is an abomination to the Lord, but a just weight is high delight. When pride cometh, then cometh shame, but with the lowly is wisdom.
So what he's saying here, a false balance is abomination to the Lord. When it comes to judging matters, when it comes to making decisions, you got to be balanced when you're weighing the matter. And the problem with a lot of our people is that the balance is the weight is off balanced. Their decision making is unbalanced. When it comes to making judgment, it's unbalanced. It says a false balance is abomination to the Lord, but a just weight is a delight. When pride cometh, then cometh shame. You allow that pride to enter in, you're going to find yourself falling into shame because you're going to say or do something stupid that's going to make you look bad to your nation, to your people. It says, but with the lowly is wisdom. Don't be afraid to allow yourself to fall into a low estate because you're going to go through those trials as we talked about last week with the lesson about see my mind going blank again. What was the lesson last week?
I forgot to.
Where's this?
It's no, I don't know.
Said it earlier. See, my mind is going blank on me, man. It starts with a T. I'm telling you that COVID did something to me. Temptation. There we go. Temptation.
Temptation.
Yeah, when it comes to dealing with your temptation, I'm telling you, man, the COVID did something to me. That, I could be thinking of a word saying, and all of a sudden my mind just go blink now all of a sudden. It could also be age catching up too. But it says, when pride cometh, then cometh shame. But with the lowly is wisdom. So don't that those going through those trials, going through those temptations is what's going to strengthen you. All right. So that's going to bring you to knowing wisdom, to knowing knowledge, to having understanding. All right. Let's go to, continue reading.
Verse 3: the integrity of the upright shall guide them, but the perverseness of transgression shall destroy them. Riches profit not in the day of wrath, but righteousness delivereth from death.
So it says the integrity of the upright shall guide them. See, that's one of the problems with a lot of our people is a lot of our people lack integrity. A lot of our people lack integrity. So the integrity of the upright shall guide them. Integrity. I'll give you just a brief definition of what it means. Basically, doing what's right, even when nobody else is looking, even when no one else can see it. You have a choice to do something right or do something wrong. Even if you do the wrong, nobody's going to know, or you think nobody's going to know. What should you do? You should do what's right anyway. That's having integrity. Even though the Most High, you can't fool the Most High. The Most High's eyes are everywhere. But that's what a fool thinks. Nobody will see me. Nobody's going to know it was me. You're at work and you just counted out a whole bunch of money that they made for the day. And that temptation is there. Like, you know what, man, I could take like $100. Nobody would know. That's integrity. Saying, you know what, man, even though nobody's going to know, I ain't going to steal from my job, man. I'm getting ready to do that. That's integrity. And a lot of our people lack integrity. They lack the ability to do what's right, to do the right things. The righteousness of the perfect shall actually, what was that? The integrity of the upright shall guide them, but the perverseness of transgressors shall destroy them. Riches profit not in the day of wrath. It doesn't matter how much money you got. When the day of wrath comes from the Most High, you're not going to be able to bargain with them. It's kind of like the movie Terminator, when he was telling Sarah Connor, he can't be reasoned with, he can't be bargained with, he can't be bought. There's nothing you can say or nothing you can do that is going to turn away his wrath. That's going to be Christ when he comes back. There's no amount of money, there's nothing you can say, nothing you can do that's going to turn him from his wrath. The only way that you're going to turn that wrath away is before he comes, repenting and keeping his commandments. That's the only way. It says, but righteousness delivers from death. Just what I just said. Righteousness, keeping his commandments. That's the only thing that's going to keep you from death in that day. Go ahead and read on.
The righteous of the perfect shall direct his way, but the wicked shall fall by his own wickedness. The righteous of the upright shall deliver them, but the transgressors shall be taken in their own naughtiness.
It says, but the transgressors shall be taken in their own naughtiness. Go ahead.
When a wicked man dieth, his expectation shall perish, and the hope of unjust men perisheth. The righteous is delivered out of trouble, and the wicked cometh in his stead.
So it says the righteous is delivered out of trouble, and the wicked cometh in his stead. So if you want to be delivered out of trouble, what do you need to do? You need to make sure you're keeping these commandments. Go to Sirach 22:13.
The book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 22 and verse 13. Talk not much with a fool, and go not to him that hath no understanding. Beware of him, lest thou have trouble, and thou shalt never be defiled with his fooleries. Depart from him, and thou shalt find rest, and never be disquieted with madness.
So when it comes to dealing with the fool, it says, talk not much with the fool, and go not to him that hath no understanding. You got to know who's in your circle. You got to know who you can have around you for counsel, to give you good advice, to help lead you in a righteous path, to lead you to repentance. Because a fool is not going to do that. Remember, the fool has said in his heart that there is no God. So why would you want that kind of person around you? What can they teach you? What can they do for you? It says, beware of him, lest thou have trouble. If you allow yourself to be around, to hang around the wrong kind of people, you're going to find yourself in trouble. And you need to teach that to your kids. The hanging around the wrong kind of people can lead you into trouble. And that's where you're finding, some of these kids, as we've, shown in some of our lessons, that they go to a sleepover, they go to a party, or whatever the case is, and they never come home. A parent has let their kid out the door, their teenager, and actually this just happened last week, I think it was, where these two girls' parents allowed her to go to a sleepover at one of their friends' houses, have the parents having no idea that the girl whose house they went to sleep over, the stepfather was a pedophile.
Oh, no.
And ended up killing his daughter, his wife, his other kids. I think total it was 7 bodies that they found, including the 2 girls whose parents had allowed them to go over there and spend the night. Because he was supposed to be going to court on a court case that he had caught. He had caught a case for I guess doing something, messing around online with I guess an underage person, and ended up catching a case and was supposed to go to court that next day. And so he decided he's gonna kill everybody rather than go face the music. Beware of him lest thou have trouble. You got to be careful who you let your kids hang around. You got to teach them to be aware of red flags and what red flags to look for. Listen to what people say. Look and watch in how they act. Look at the things they do. Watch the things they do. It says, beware of him lest thou have trouble, and thou shalt never be defiled with his fooleries. If you stay away from that person, you won't ever have to worry about partaking in the sins that they are partaking in, to where you don't find yourself being defiled with the foolish things that they do. Because a lot of the times, a lot of people end up finding themselves in trouble because they are at the wrong place at the wrong time with the wrong people. You could be just an innocent person, and your friends are like, hey man, we're going to go to this party. We're going to go to this club. Oh, by the way, can you drive? My car is broke down. And you end up being the one driving, and you get pulled over, and you have no idea that the dude sitting in the back seat got drugs on him. So here they are stuffing the drugs in the seat of your car, and you have no idea. And the cop's like, you mind if we search your car? Can everyone step out of the car? And you're thinking, like, hey, you know what? I got nothing. Go ahead. Search the car. And the cop's like, what's this? You're like, that's not mine. It's in your car. So either one of two things. The cop put it there, or one of the people that was sitting in your back seats put it there. So, those things could happen. Find themselves in trouble because they trusted the wrong person. Depart from him, and thou shalt find rest, and never be disquieted with madness. And that's what I'm saying in the situation with, the friends that I had in school. Once he was gone, it was quite clear that, that's who was causing all the strife, causing all the problems within the group. Mm-hmm. Now that he left and went to another school, and the only reason why he left was because of basketball. He had those kind of parents that thought that, if we send him over to this school, he have a better chance of getting a scholarship because this coach over here is not letting him play. Like, we were taking the time to think that maybe he's not letting him play. Maybe he's not that good. But took him to another school, didn't get one offer. It was all for nothing. And not only that, he ended up getting involved in alcohol and drugs. And, the last time I even ran into him, I was running to school up the street from where my parents lived at the time. This was back in 90, I want to say probably like 93, 94. And, I ran into him. I was going into a store. He was coming out and he was like, man, I haven't seen you since. They're like, yeah, how you been? He's like, oh man, the sob stories, coming out, man. I was, in rehab, you know what I mean? I let myself get caught up in alcoholism, I got caught up in drugs and stuff, and I really need something positive. You think you can teach me? And I'm sitting there thinking like, no, I ain't no way in the world. You know what I mean? By that time, we had been out of high school for a few years or so. I'm like, no, ain't no way in the world I'm teaching you, man. But it was nice to see you, man. I'm sorry that, things turned out the way they did. went separate ways, shaking my head. I felt sorry for him. My heart broke for him because it was like, you have so much more potential. But unfortunately, that's what happens. All right. So where are we at?
Finish
Verse
the rock
13.
20 to
Yeah.
13.
Yeah. So we're just finishing that up. So it says, depart from him and thou shalt find rest and never be disquieted with madness. And like I just said, once he was gone, all the madness stopped. So the next we're going to deal with is anger. All right. So dealing with that anger, pride can lead to anger. We dealt with strife, contention, destruction, trouble, anger. Let's go to Proverbs 22:24.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 22 and verse 24. Make no friendship with an angry man, and with a furious man thou shalt not go.
Read that one more time. I went
Um,
to Sirach 22 and 24. I'm sorry. Hold on. Because we were already in Sirach. I was thinking we were in Proverbs 22 and 24. Go ahead and read it again. I'm sorry.
make Proverbs 22 and 24. Make no friendship with an angry man, and with a furious man thou shalt not go.
So that's what I was speaking of earlier. That's dealing with a prideful person. We all know people that are like that. They're quick to just snap for any little reason. Make no friendship with an angry man, and with a furious man thou shalt not go. What is it that causes a person to be angry? Pride. Stay away from that prideful, angry, vindictive person that all they do is talk bad about people and want to cause strife and contention and fight, because all that comes from being around them is destruction. They destroy friendships, they destroy relationships. That's that person you can't trust around your friends. You can't even trust them around your spouse or significant other, because that's that person that will be trying to, get at them when and your back is turned. You got to be careful of that kind of person. Make no friendship with an angry man, with a furious man thou shalt not go. Actually, read verse 25.
Verse 25. Let thou learn, I
It
mean,
says, lest thou
yeah,
learn,
lest thou learn his ways and get a snare to thy soul.
lest thou learn his ways and get a snare to thy soul. Because if you're hanging out with that kind of person, guess what's going to happen? He's going to rub off. You've heard your parents say that before. You better be careful who you hang around with. You better not let so and so's, whatever, rub off on you. Because that's what happens when you're around certain kind of people. Whatever they get into, it's going to rub off on you. You're going to start acting the same way. You constantly around an angry person, you're going to turn into an angry person. Let's go to Proverbs 29 and 22.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 29 and verse 22. An angry man stirreth up strife, and a furious man aboundeth in transgression.
So an angry man stirreth up strife, and a furious man aboundeth in transgression. An angry person is full of sin. That's what that's telling you. They abounded. You're talking about there's a multitude, there's a lot of sin in the midst of them. Let's go to Sirach 8 and 16.
The book of Ecclesiasticus, chapter 8 and verse 16. Strive not with an angry man, and go not with him into a solitary place. For blood is as nothing in his sight, and where there is no help, he will overthrow thee.
This is where some of our people have got to teach their kids, and you also got to remind yourselves, don't allow yourself to argue and get contentious and strive with an angry man. Somebody that that has a short fuse you need to stay away from that person. It says, and go not with him into a solitary place. I've been in situations like that before where, I had a feeling and knew that, certain people around you just didn't like you. You get that sense, you know what I mean? If you've got spiritual eyes and spiritual ears, you can watch and hear in a person whether or not they actually really like you, have love for you or not. And had people, you know what, man, we're gonna, meet me, at such and such a place. And I'm like, meet you where? Such and such a place. And I'm thinking, well, it ain't nothing out there will make you think I'm gonna come out there by myself and be around you, and I know you don't even like me.
Mhm.
They're like, oh, you know what? I got something to do. I'm not gonna be able to go. Like, why? What you got in mind? Oh, no, never mind. Like, yeah, that's what I thought. And exactly what I thought. Okay, yeah, I'll see you later. Later means never. But you gotta be aware of that kind of stuff. And go not with him into a solitary place, for blood is nothing in his sight. An angry person, they have no remorse. They have no feelings of empathy. They have no feelings of apathy. They're not going to feel bad. They're not going to feel sorry for you. They have no problems with jumping on you and causing harm to you. It says, and where there is no help, he will overthrow thee. That's what happened to that little girl we showed you. And I know these are all stories about Edomites, but those are the ones that are in the news the most right now, where the little 14-year-old girl in Florida went by herself into the fields with that other kid, and he stabbed her up 100 and something times. Stabbed her so hard that he broke the tip of the knife in her skull. That's because no one taught her not to go into a solitary place with an angry person. She already knew that this kid had a volatile spirit about him. Even his little so-called girlfriend told the police in her interrogation that he had anger issues, that he could become angry real quick, that he had control issues, that he could be abusive. Everyone knew this about this kid, but nobody told this little girl or taught her not to go into a solitary place alone with an angry man, with an angry person. And she trusted him, she went with him, and she ended up dead. We've got to teach this to our people. Drop the pride. Don't let pride get the best of you. Because pride can cause what? Anger. Don't allow yourself to be around an angry person, because then you're going to allow your pride to get the best of you and you're going to become angry. Now, here you are with this person alone somewhere, and you don't know that they brought a knife with them, they brought a gun with them. They've got some kind of weapon or some way that they brought to subdue you. And in some cases, it could be something as simple as slipping something into your drink. They could be like, hey, you know what? I brought, some alcohol. Let's drink, and slip something into your drink. Because a lot of that is happening nowadays. Let's go to Proverbs 37 and 8.
The book of Proverbs.
I mean, Psalms 37 and 8. I was going to say there's no
Right.
Proverbs 37. Psalms 37 and 8.
Psalms 37. The book of Psalms, chapter 37 and verse 8. Cease from anger and forsake wrath. Fret not thyself in any wise to do evil.
That's very heavy. Cease from anger. Because the more you let anger get the best of you, you allow yourself to be that angry, bitter person. You're going to lead you into a world of trouble, and that trouble is going to lead to your destruction. And you can see how all of these words intermingle with each other: pride, strife, contention, destruction, trouble, anger, all of them. They intermingle together. And if you're not, if you're not careful, your anger and your wrath can cause you to do evil. That's why it says, fret not thyself in any wise to do evil. When you're in an angry state of mind, that can cause you to do things that you normally wouldn't do. Almost like somebody that's on drugs or somebody that's on alcohol. They're going to do things under those conditions where they're under the mind altering substances. They're going to do things that they normally wouldn't do. That's the same thing that anger will do. Anger will cause you to do things that you normally wouldn't do under normal circumstances. Under normal circumstances, you wouldn't just haul off and punch and hit somebody. But under the episode of an angry episode, there's no telling what you can do or what you would be capable of doing. Let's go to Proverbs 15:1.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 15 and verse 1. A soft answer turneth away wrath, but grievous words drive up anger.
A soft answer turneth away wrath, but grievous words stir up anger. I use that even to this day. And for whatever reason, that was just always been my personality, been me. Somebody get up into your face one and you just speak soft to them. That's the way I look at it, is kill them with niceness. Like, no, yes, sir, no, sir, no, no, it's okay. Yeah, yes, sir, yeah. A soft answer turneth away wrath. That person comes up to you, they're wanting to argue, they're wanting to fight, they're ready to, and instead of giving into it, you just speak to them in a soft tone, de-escalate the situation, and make them walk away confused, like, wait a minute, I came over here ready to, but somehow I'm walking away. They completely changed my spirit. They've turned, you know what I mean? Like, wait, what happened? I wanted to be mad. You've seen people do that, like, man, I wanted to be mad. What happened? Like, oh, they just used the Jedi mind trick on you. That's all. You came up ready for strife and debate and wanted to fight. And that's what we use on the streets all the time, using the Bible says, be wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove. Not all of our brothers out there on the streets teaching are doing what the Bible says, because they're quick to turn wrathful. They're quick to let anger get the best of them in dealing with the other nations on the street. And the next thing you know, they're out there on the streets in an argument, yelling back and forth with somebody of the other nations. It's a waste of time. Actually, verse 2 says, the tongue of the wise useth knowledge aright, but the mouth of fools poureth out foolishness, which is very true. Let's go to Proverbs 15:18. Drop down to verse 18.
Verse 18. A wrathful man stirreth up strife, but he that is slow to anger appeaseth strife.
A wrathful man stirreth up strife, but he that is slow to anger appeaseth strife. Let's go to Proverbs 16:32. You see anybody that sits there talking about the Old Testament is done away with, that's the old stuff, we ain't got to keep that no more, they are foolish. All this wisdom and knowledge and understanding in the book of Proverbs, in the book of Psalms, in the book of Job, the book of Ecclesiastes, in the book of Song of Solomon, and you know what I mean, Sirach, wisdom of Solomon. Look at all this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding in these books, and you got somebody foolishly saying that this is all it's done away with.
Yeah, right.
There is no place for those laws and, for that in today's society. It's like, are you serious? But go ahead and read what you got.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 16 and verse 32. He that is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he that ruleth his spirit than he that taketh a city.
So he that is slow to anger is better than the mighty. So the person that's slow to anger, it doesn't matter how big and strong a person is. Because in most cases, the people that are big and strong, they don't know how to rule their spirit. They don't know how to control their urge to want to lash out. But he's saying the man that's slow to anger is better than that mighty man. And he that ruleth his spirit than he that taketh the city. You could be, Joe Schmo, G.I. Joe, what do they call them? Navy SEAL, whoever, whatever. You could have, stormed the beaches of Normandy back in the day. You could have been out there in the deserts of Iraq and and Afghanistan, being out there being the soldier boy. Doesn't mean nothing at all if you don't know how to rule your spirit. Because a lot of times that's what happens when a lot of these men come back from war. They come back and their minds are altered. War does something to a man, especially if they're not men of God and they don't know how to rule their spirit. Actually, I'm telling you, look at all this wisdom here. I'm going to read verse
Right.
27, 16, 20. An ungodly man diggeth up evil, and in his lips there is as a burning fire. A froward man soweth strife, and a whisperer separated chief friends. We read that one earlier. A violent man enticeth his neighbor, and leadeth him into the way that is not good. He shutteth his eyes to devise forward things. Moving his lips, he bringeth evil to pass. I'm telling you, anybody saying that the Old Testament is done away with have no idea what they're talking about. Let's go to Ecclesiastes 7 and 9.
The book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 7 and verse 9. Be not hasty in thy spirit to be angry, for anger resteth in the bosom of fool.
So this is self-explanatory. Be not hasty in thy spirit to be angry, for anger resteth in the bosom of fools. Don't be quick to anger, because a lot of our people are that way and they let pride get the best of them. And that pride leads to them lashing out. And that pride leads to what? Vainglory. Vainglory, because a lot of our people are out there looking for that vainglory, which is one of those things that pride can cause. Pride can cause someone to fall into that. Let's go to Galatians 5 and 16 through 26.
The book of Galatians, chapter 5 and verse 16. This I say then, walk in the spirit, and ye shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. For the flesh lusted against the spirit, and the spirit against the flesh. And these are the contrary the one to the other, so that ye cannot do the things that ye would. But ye
So it
be
says, this I say then, walk in the spirit, and you shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. That goes back to what we were talking about last week when we were talking about temptation. And it applies also when it comes to pride. If you're walking in the spirit, you're not going to allow pride to sink into you. It's not going to enter into you, which will keep you from falling into temptation, which is going to keep you from fulfilling the lust of the flesh. Actually, verse 17, for the flesh lusteth against the spirit, and the spirit against the flesh. And these are contrary the one to the other, so that you cannot do the things that you would. They are opposite each other. That's why you cannot serve God and serve mammon at the same time. You cannot serve God and drink the cup of devils at the same time. You cannot do it. All right. Let's go to verse 18.
Verse 18. But if ye be led of the Spirit, ye are not under the law.
So the law of sacrifice. Go ahead.
Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulations, wrath, strife, sedition, heresies, envyings, murders, drunkenness, revelings, and such like, of the which I tell you before, as I have also told you in time past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of God.
So he's saying that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of God. Read on.
But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such there is no law.
Now, remember, we went over this last week in the lesson about temptation. Go ahead.
And they that are Christ have crucified the flesh with the affections and lusts.
In other words, you've crucified the flesh with the affections and lusts. In other words, you have reformed your mind. You've become a new creature. You become a new being. You become a new person. You're no longer that prideful, strife contending, destructive troublemaker that's full of anger. You're no longer that person. Go ahead.
If we live in the Spirit, let us also walk in the Spirit. Let
If
us
we
not
live
be
in the Spirit, let us also walk in the Spirit. If you're living according to the commandments, you need to be walking according to the commandments. Go ahead.
let us not be desirous of vain
Desirous.
desirous. Let us not be desirous of vain glory, provoking one another, envying one another.
Let us not be desirous of vainglory. What is vainglory exactly? We're going to get the definition of that because some of our people don't really know. Vainglory. Let me share screen real quick. Don't be desirous of vainglory because that's one of the main things that, especially in the Israelite movement, that we're seeing a lot. Vainglory, inordinate pride in oneself or one's achievements, excessive vanity. What are some of the synonyms that are similar? Conceit, conceitedness, self conceit, narcissism, self love, self admiration, self regard, self absorption, self obsession, self centeredness, egotism, egoism, egocentrism, egomania, pride. Again, all these go hand in hand. Haughtiness, arrogance, boastfulness. Isn't that what we read about King Hezekiah? He was boasting about everything he had. Swagger. See, our people are always quick to talk about the kind of swag they got. I got swagger. Imperiousness, cockiness, pretension, affection, or I say affectation. I can't even see what that one says. I have my glasses on.
Right.
That's a sins. Oh, air. Okay, whatever. Airs, show. What is this one? Ostentation. Never even heard that word. Well, what does it mean? Let me go back. What is ostentation? Pretentious and vulgar display, especially of wealth and luxury, intended to impress or attract notice. Oh, okay. You could say that about a lot of celebrities. Would you call it ostentatious, braggadocious, or braggadocio? All right. But that's vainglory, though. So he's telling us be not desirous of vainglory, provoking one another, envying one another. So we got to make sure that we get all that provoking and envying um, out of our people, because that's what's leading a lot of our people astray. Let's go to 2 Corinthians 13 and 11.
The book of Second Corinthians, chapter 13 and verse 11. Finally, brethren, farewell, be perfect, be of good comfort, be of one mind, live in peace, and the God of love and peace shall be with you.
So he says, finally, brethren, farewell. That's what we're going to tell you. Finally, brethren, farewell. Be perfect, just as they said, just as the epistle says, and we're telling you the same. Be perfect, be of good comfort, be of one mind, live in peace, and the God of love and peace shall be with you. Let's go to Ecclesiastes 12 and 13 through 14.
The book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 12 and verse 13. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man. For God shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil.
And with that, we're going to say shalom, most high in Christ blessed. Enjoy the rest of the Sabbath, and we shall see you next Sabbath. Shalom, most high in Christ blessed.